The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Scott Norton, and you're listening to Keepin It Strong Style.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith and Mavs Gillis. On today's show, reviewing the finals of the New Japan Cup, answering your questions, and covering all latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can support our show by subscribing to the Social Suplex Podcast Network or to Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts and columns over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tee store, ProWrestlingTees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This week's episode is brought to you by the NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWWorld.com, with features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and shared playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. You can visit njpwext.us today for details. And like you heard in the intro, we are joined by Mavs Gillis. Mavs, how you doing, man?
Wonderful, gentlemen. It is great to be on the podcast with you both, and thank you for having me. Such an exciting time coming off New Japan Cup and going into Sakura Genesis.
Yeah, we were on some post on Twitter and I saw you commenting about, your picks and, the brackets, and I was like, well, we might need to get you on there to talk about it. Unfortunately, we got you after the end of the cup, but very eventful time, and we're happy to have you.
Well, I can tell you how all 4 of those brackets went, because I went in 4 pools and picked 4 different things, and they all just you might as well just light the sheets of paper on fire. Just like the sheets of paper of the NCAA March Madness are on fire. Those ones were lit up pretty much. I think I had Shingo winning one of them. That was the closest I got. So that's bracketology 101, gentlemen.
Yeah, I saw that you entered into our contest, and so yeah, that was pretty cool. And yeah, my brackets were lit up in fire too, pretty much from day one. With I had Okada beating Shingo. I had Okada going to the finals against Ospreay, so I was pretty much done after that.
I'll take my victory laps later on in the episode. But you're burying yourself a little bit here, Mavs. I mean, I proved some of these questions, and we got some NCAA March Madness questions later on for you. So.
All right, we'll see what I can get.
Well, Mavs, every time we have a new guest here on the show, we just kind of like get a little background on their time, watching New Japan and their New Japan fandom. So first of all, just tell the listeners, how did you get started watching New Japan?
Well, of course, you're always looking for more and more pro wrestling, and being a WWF kid growing up, I think my first real exposure to Japanese pro wrestling in general was seeing the magazines when Tenryu had the WWF guys over for SWS shows. So that was my first real exposure to it. And then you'll learn about these other promotions, the New Japans and the All Japans. And my good friend, Big Mark up here in Cape Breton, Patrick McNeil, he's another play-by-play hockey voice. We used to joke all the time about how it's not a Japanese wrestling match unless you see a trophy outside the ring. Every time you'd look in the magazines, you'd see these matches from Japan and they'd have trophies. Yes. So we were thinking, all right, they just like a Saturday Superstars is the trophy, and just handing these out. They still do in Stardom, I guess. But anyways, I have to give a lot of credit to Omega Okada for really getting myself back into saying there's something really good going on over with New Japan Pro Wrestling. And that was where my interest really began to peek into it and starting to really pay attention. I then, ended up in a relationship with a girl from Japan. We met in Nova Scotia, still going strong. But that enabled me to take the bucket list trip and go to Japan. So went to a Kazuna Roadshow in 2017, I think it was, and then was back another year and met Harold May as he's doing his meet and greets, as he did. Just a casual conversation that turned into me kind of mustering up the confidence to find a way to contact him online, send him an email with a tape. And before you know it, 3 weeks later, as I'm about to fly back to Canada, I'm in the departures lounge waiting for my flight, and my phone buzzes and he responds to that email, and we're off to the races from there. So it started with sending a couple trial matches back and forth, and here we go to New Japan, and we've been done 10 cards at Korakuen, been down the States for some of the U.S. tours, and had a couple things planned before COVID shut everything down. So I'm a real fan of that COVID-19.
How was your time working English commentary in New Japan?
Oh, it was the greatest. It was it was a dream come true. I'm working with Lanny Poffo to start things off, so I'm blown away by that. Lanny gave it his best effort, and he's the first one to tell you he gave it his best effort. We made sure he had a very good visit in Japan, and we had a lot of fun and a lot of memories from the commentary booth with Lanny. It was a great experience, and I actually will send him a Facebook message every once in a while. He's down in Ecuador now, so he's enjoying that retired life. But just working with Chris, working with Rocky, getting a chance to chat a bit with Kevin has been really cool. But really, I mean, it's to be at ringside and putting your voice and your call as kind of the soundtrack to that action. It's an unbelievable feeling. And, you build up, we're watching the guys on njpwworld.com week after week, day after day, and seeing them, being the one to call it is a huge honor. It's a huge privilege. It's something I hope I can get back to doing more of as that happens. Yeah. Especially if things open up again for U.S. tours. I mean, I'm at the point, I'm sitting behind Kevin Kelly right now. That's Kevin's chair until Kevin says, I'm good for my trips to Japan. Thank you very much. So, as I said, it's like the backup to Joe Montana and Brett Favre. Kevin Kelly's the best in the business right now. So just waiting, and trying to stay ready for that. But that's really, it really is. It's so cool. It's so awesome. And, work in production with Chris and trying to, come up with ideas for how we're calling things. Like I got to, and you know what? And I got to call CMLL for Fantasticmania the last 2 years, and getting exposed to Lucha more. I'm very grateful for that as well. Yeah, no, it's been incredible.
Yeah, that tour that you mentioned with Lanny Poffo, like, say what you will about it, but there's a few incredible Poffoisms that were born out of that we still use on this show. But in all seriousness, if we thought, like, for instance, if we weren't fans, we thought you sucked, we wouldn't say anything, but we just keep it quiet. But like in all actuality, you've got two fans sitting right here, big supporters, from day one, once we saw you and kind of heard your voice, and, we'd like to see you work with the company more going forward. That'd be cool.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. That does mean a lot. I really appreciate it. And and as I say, it was a build. It's been, it's when I say I sent an email, and it's not like I didn't pay my dues in sportscasting and broadcasting. I've been at it for, well, I mean, my earliest memories is calling table hockey against my dad when I was 3. So if that counts, that counts. But it's been a long journey. I'm getting ready for a hockey game tomorrow night, and it's New Japan really lends itself to a sportscasting feel because it is the king of sport, and it is a sports atmosphere and a sports presentation. It's not like, as I like to say, the family business in Connecticut, and you know what, and that stands for a lot of that stands for all the Japanese wrestling. I should say that it is that sports presentation that is sometimes lacking from some wrestling organizations around here.
Yeah, definitely. So what is your favorite New Japan match?
My favorite New Japan match, I don't know if it counts as a New Japan match because it was Suzuki's 30th anniversary, where Okada and Suzuki went 30 minutes in a downpour in Yokohama, and it does. I was there, and
nice.
It holds a real special place in my heart because it reminded me of seeing, like you'll see photos of baseball fields just filled with people around wrestling rings from the 1930s and the 1940s, and it's an event. At the Red Brick Warehouse in Yokohama that day, there was about 40,000 people, all just on the flat ground, lining to watch these two combatants go at it in a ring in the middle of a downpour. It really harkened back to that type of prestige for professional wrestling, and so that's why it does hold it holds a special place in my heart.
Technically speaking, I don't think it's actually a New Japan match, but spiritually, I mean, how could you argue it's not? I mean, it absolutely was.
Yeah, I don't. Is it canon, as they say? But yeah,
I mean,
no, you know what? And really, I mean, if I was to look at a New Japan match that currently is one of my favorites, I think when I saw Tanahashi when Tanahashi won the IWGP title at his last Wrestle Kingdom, where he won the title
Against Omega.
beating Omega.
Yeah, that was a great match.
And I think that was a culmination of a lot of things.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm a very big Tanahashi mark. I mean, that guy is, he's the ace for a reason.
Right.
And I love how he carries himself. He's an absolute rock star.
Yeah.
Well, that might answer our final question before we get to our topics, but would you say that's your favorite New Japan wrestler, or is it somebody else?
Like, there's a lot of things that I love about a lot of guys in New Japan. Tanahashi and how he carries, as I talked about. Tana's the man. Tana's the absolute ace. We were in Miami after a show, and he's in the front seat, and he's having a full conversation in Espanol with the Uber driver from his time at CMLL.
Wow.
And he's lighting up the room, and he provides that great energy. I love the intensity of Minoru Suzuki. Yeah. I love Kazuo Ninare. I love how at 53 years old, he's still a badass. And as we were recording this, they're doing a virtual online meet and greet with Suzuki.
That's
and
right.
Charlton. Chris Charlton's hosting it. So our thoughts and prayers to the family of Chris Charlton. And you know what? It's been fun working with you, son. I hope you get out of the hospital soon. I'm just gonna assume that's how it ends. You know what? If there's a guy that I might get in heat for saying this. If there's a guy that I look at and say, "Yep, that's how I would have been as a pro wrestler," Yujiro Takahashi. I'm sorry, guys. That's exactly what it would have been. I know I got a little Takahashi flow on the go right now.
You picked the wrong Takahashi. It's supposed to be Hiromu. You picked the wrong Takahashi. You should have picked Hiromu.
No, it would. Yeah, no, it wouldn't have been Hiromu. These feet don't leave the ground, my friend. Yujiro Takahashi would have been the closest I would have been to seeing me as a professional wrestler.
Nice.
So, and again, when he gets in the ring, I don't know who. And this is not to be disrespectful to him, because I think he's a hell of a wrestler. He's a hell of a hand in the ring. But someone once said, if you imagine that Takahashi is at least buzzed or maybe even a little smashed while he's wrestling, it makes his matches that much more fun. Yeah, you know what? You're not wrong. He's a sound mind, and he's a great mind for the business. But yeah, that's another guy I like there. So no, there's a lot of, I always go back and forth on guys that I truly enjoy watching. I mean, the whole roster, top to bottom, is just so talented. Man.
Well, that's awesome. We got some stuff to jump into here. We've actually got a comment. I'm going to start us off. It's from _stress_. He said, "Hi, guys. I can't think of a question, so I just want to say thank you guys for the podcast and the work you put into it every week. Watching NJPW/wrestling in general has been getting me through a rough 2020, even rougher start to 2021. More importantly, though, your discussions have added to that enjoyment. I love how if you guys don't enjoy an aspect of a match, character, or program, you actually use critical thinking to find out the reason why you felt that way, or how/why Gato/The Office made a certain creative decision, as opposed to simply burying it or throwing out some hot take for clicks and controversy. We love pro wrestling, right? The greatest art form on planet Earth. Your pod reminds me of this fact every time I listen. Thank you. Anyways, much love from Australia. Fuck evil. And as always, get NJPWEXT."
Yeah, so a great comment there from Reddit user _stress_. Thank you for sending that comment in and listening to our show every week.
So,
and NJPW Danny loves it even more to hear that NJPW NXT. And that's plug right there too.
Yeah.
And Evil's listening and he's upset right now.
Oh, man. So we got some New Japan Cup to talk about. So last time we left off, we had the quarterfinals, semifinals, and the finals to talk about. So
last time on Keepin It Strong Style.
So we're gonna just kind of run through the results of some of the undercards of these shows, and then kind of give our thoughts on the quarters, semis, and finals. Lots to talk about there. So we'll start on Thursday's show from March 18th. We had the show opening up with Yuya Uemura defeating Gabriel Kidd. We had Great Okan and Jeff Cobb defeating Otatsuji and Yuji Nagata. We had the Bullet Club team of Bad Luck Fale and Kenta defeating Juice Robinson and Toa Henare. We had L.I.J., Ibushi, Shingo, and Naito defeating Chase Owens, Evil, and Taiji Ishimori. And then the semi-main event was the first quarterfinal match of the night. We had David Finlay, accompanied by his Impact Tag Team Champion partner, Juice Robinson, pulling the big upset and defeating Jay White. 19 minutes and 26 seconds. This had to be one of the ultimate bracket busters.
Loyola Chicago, stand up. That's the bracket busters right now. Man, I love that they are running with David Finlay, especially like you're looking at a guy who's come back from, I think is it 2 or 3 shoulder injuries now. He's had to rehab so much. To see him be given this presence to have a run and getting a big win over Jay White, and especially with their history of being dojo boys. It's so great to see David getting his chance to shine in a bit of a singles role. And I'd say it's something that is going to be able to put him, Juice always gets, Juice has been in G1s. Juice has had some title runs. This really elevates David up to that status to make him more equal with Juice.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. assessment, and this just really took us by surprise. I mean, once I watched the match, I kind of went back and I listened to some other like podcasts, some other, groups, kind of saw what their takes were. And you know what? Seems like we're the only ones who were completely counting David Finlay out. Some other smarter minds in this realm were sort of reading the tea leaves and realizing like, oh, well, if they have Jay White go through, then it's going to be him and Will. Then you've got a big eliminator. They're like, there's a good chance Dave Finlay might win here. But like on this podcast, we're like, Dave, there's 3 things that are certain in life, like death, taxes, and Jay White beats David Finlay.
Yeah.
Like we just thought it was a foregone conclusion. And then once I saw that he actually beat him, I was like, this was such a great moment. Even if, I wouldn't rate the match as a classic, although it's probably still like 4 stars. It's a really great match. But at the end of it, I'm like standing up on my chair, like holding my head, like, did he just fucking win? Like,
yes. Yeah, man. It was awesome match. I also went 4 stars on it. It was just one of those things where it's like the format was very similar to the Toa Hanare match that we saw with Jay White, where Jay was pretty much in control majority of the match, beating down on Finlay. And then you had Juice, stepping in and removing Gato from ringside, kind of giving Finlay more of a fair shot there. And then Finlay is firing up, coming back, hitting the Prima Nocta, his version of the stunner, followed by the acid drop, and just getting the clean pinfall there. Like Josh said, it was just one of those shocking, moments that just captured you. It was like, wow, he finally did it. These guys have, you mentioned that history from the dojo system. I believe Jay says it was 12 matches in a row that he beaten Finlay. And just based on the way that Finlay has been booked previously, like you mentioned, he's not the guy that's in the G1s. He's not getting the singles pushes. He's been seen as a tag guy. When he came back and had that feud with Archer beat him pretty quickly. And so, due to previous booking, you just kind of overlooked this guy. At least I did. And you wouldn't think he would have a chance of beating former IWGP champion Jay White.
And the nice thing about that win is it really does elevate David Finlay into conversation about, does he fit into the G1 upcoming? And I know there's still a few months left before to give a bit of body of work to that claim, but it makes everyone think, okay, David Finlay in the G1 makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree. One thing I thought was interesting at the end of this match, Jay White in the post-match comments basically was just completely forlorn, beside himself. And then he was like, David, do you realize what you've done? I was going to split these titles. He's like, you just screwed Tanahashi and Okada. Like, you've ruined everybody's legacies. They're all gone. So that part was great. Do we want to move on to the main event, though?
Yeah, so we had a question from Dom Homie, but I think we pretty much answered his question without asking. He just asked our thoughts on David Finlay upsetting Jay White in the New Japan Cup, which I think we're all pretty positive on that, and we'll talk more about Finlay's performances later on in this tournament.
His run is far from over in this tournament.
So the main event, the other quarterfinal match, we had Will Ospreay defeating Sonata, 18 minutes 55 seconds.
That's just summed up very well by the gif of Sonata flipping off Will Ospreay and the promo of the year saying, "I hate his face" or something like that.
Yeah.
I feel like he's not alone in that feeling.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of fans channel Sonata.
My feelings on this match were, this was, I don't know. A lot of people, am I just getting to the point where like I'm just completely down on Sonata? Because I wasn't high on the Ishii match and everyone else seemed to be pretty high on that. I wasn't super high on this match either, although I thought it was a good to great match. But for me, like Sonata, he's just the epitome of like paint by numbers. Like his match, he comes out there and I mean, from a technical standpoint, an athletic standpoint, he's second to none. But from the facial standpoint, the charisma standpoint, the fire, the investment, I'm just like, ugh, there's nothing there. Will beat him, and I was like, thank God. And they had what I would call a fitting main event. I mean, it probably was close to that 4-star range, but I never was in doubt that Will was ever going to lose. The big thing here was just Sonata keeping up with his pace and Sonata, working over the nose, which was allegedly broken, but ultimately, not enough to overcome, a Stormbreaker.
Right. What do you think, Mavs?
You know what? You do hit it. You're trying to find what that one thing is with Sonata that's going to put him over the top, because athletically, you're right, second to none, and great psychology of really working the nose of Will Ospreay. But that Ospreay and Empire right now really have built themselves into the must-watch faction of New Japan. So
Right.
yeah, you kind of saw it, and if I'm remembering, Sonata had a nice run in February. He had his title shot. We'll see what they do with him, though. We'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, I feel like he's just kind of treading water right now until they kind of figure out a game plan for him. I really did enjoy the Ishii matches because I felt like for the first time in a while he had some fire, and Ishii kind of made him wrestle that Ishii never strong style match. It was interesting to see him work that kind of match. Ospreay and Sonata had a match in the G1 previously that I really enjoyed, but for whatever reason, like, this match was I went 4 stars on this. I thought it was a good main event for this show, but I just remember that G1 match. I believe it was 2019 G1 that was, and they just had a really fast-paced, really innovative match, and I thought it was awesome. And for here, I just didn't know. I don't think Sonata really took that into the next gear here, and Will's wrestling a little bit of a different style now, not doing as many high-flying, high-paced stuff. He's doing more of striking, more power moves, and so I don't know if that kind of messed with the dynamic of the match I liked previously. But yeah, I thought it was a great main event for this night, but would have liked to see a little bit more.
I just think it's the emotionlessness. It's the lack of facials for me, more than anything else. And then, I'm sure there's people listening, they're like, but that's his thing. And I'm like, well, his thing's not that entertaining. So
yeah, I think the Cold Skull is a way to kind of hide behind.
It was great, 6 years ago, but there needs to be growth, and growth is not just changing your beard and changing your attire. It's it's more than that. The character actually needs to grow. I do. It's funny. I find him compelling when he's doing promos. And when he's doing the press conferences and he's coming out and he's got the fresh drip on, like, I think he looks like a star. But obviously he looks like a star. But yeah, I don't know, man. When he's wrestling, I'm just like, snooze.
Sonata's suit game is second to none. That's for sure, and his shoe game as well. Let's not knock his shoe game either.
He's hashtag no socks.
Remember in Dallas where like he looks like a Colombian drug lord?
Yeah.
Was that the hat?
I don't remember. I think maybe.
I think he did have a hat. Yeah.
He had like fuzzy slippers on. I don't know. It was crazy.
All right. Well, we can move on to the semifinal night here, March 20th. Show opened up. We had the Chaos team of Sho, Toriano, and Yoshihashi defeating the Bullet Club team, Bad Luck Fale, Chase Owens, and Jado. The LIJ team of Bushi, Sonata, and Naito defeating Doki, Taichi, and Zack Sabre Jr. We had Hiroshi Tanahashi, Kazuchika Okada, and Kota Ibushi defeating the Bullet Club team of Jay White, Kenta, and Yujiro Takahashi. Gonna stop here because we did have something very crazy happen in this match. There was an earthquake that happened in the middle of this match.
And not John Tenta. How many John Tenta gifts were thrown out during that 20-minute break? I've only experienced one earthquake in my life, and I think it was an earthquake. And again, as a good maritime boy, it was last January or 2 Januaries ago in the on the 20th floor of the Tokyo Dome Hotel.
Wow!
And things started shaking. And in my head, I'm like, geez, it must be really windy outside. And then it clicked in my head, like, no, you're not in Nova Scotia. You're in Japan right now. There's actually a thing called earthquakes, and you're experiencing one. So I've only had a little minor experience. But seeing how they handled it, and especially watching how kind of everyone that just around the ringside was just calming the fans and just saying, all right, just relax. We're going to get through the shake, and we'll go from there. Was I've never seen an earthquake at New Japan until now, but they handled it pretty well. I'm sure they've prepared and planned for that due to the just the nature of the island.
I guess that's definitely a possibility. I hadn't thought of that, but whether it was preparedness or whether it was just quick thinking, hats off to the performers and the staff and the fans as well. Because something like that happened here in the States.
It'd be chaos.
People would be trampling each other. There were a couple people, if you rewatch, there's like 1 or 2 people that like try to like scuttle away real quick, but thankfully, the situation was, handled well and everything stayed under control. And, the natural disaster, although, I mean, it was significant, 7.2. I mean, that's nothing to scoff at, but, a lot of their buildings are built for code for this very reason. So,
yeah, and we did have a question from Dom Homie 101 asking our thoughts on how New Japan dealt with the earthquake situation, and then what was our real-time reaction to the earthquake. So I think we're all in agreement that they handled it pretty well. But what was your reaction, Mavs, seeing that?
Like I think about, and again, this is dating me. I think about when the World Series between the San Francisco Giants and the Oakland Athletics, where there was an earthquake before Game 5, like a minute or two before first pitch, and it basically shut down the series for a couple days. And it was a big earthquake out in California. You know what? You're left trying to think what's happened, what's going on, and then it's an earthquake, because you're kind of at the whim at that point to say, I hope it's not too bad, because you don't know what's going on outside of that venue, so you do check the Twitter to see what's going. Is this a really bad earthquake, or is this just a little, just a run of the mill earthquake? Which again, a run of the mill earthquake freaks the hell out of me.
Yeah, I think one thing is the performers. One thing is like Jay White. He kind of took the opportunity to sort of entertain, took it upon himself to grab the double gold as well as the never title, and scurry off with it, which was kind of keeping things light. But really it was the Golden Aces as well as what are the names of these two tag teams?
The Golden Aces and the Mega Aces.
And the Mega Aces, the conglomerate of those two teams together, standing in the middle, just kind of telling everybody to keep calm, and then sort of just posing, taking pictures, and entertaining everybody.
I love Tanahashi's method of just flashing his abs to everybody in the crowd, like, it's going to be okay.
Everybody stare at the abs. Just be hypnotized by the body. We will be fine. And again, to go pro wrestling, Gorilla Monsoon. Oh, these three gentlemen in the ring together. Of course, the earth is gonna shake.
No, that's literally like so many people are like, these three powers all together in the ring at the same time. Like the earth couldn't handle it.
Yeah, just
the Titans combined to force the tectonic plates to come across each other. Yeah, exactly. All the hyperbole you learn in broadcast journalism school, you use it in that situation.
But I figured, once this was over, I was like, I guess the match is over. Nope, they still had the match.
The show must go on, pal.
Hey, we're live, pal.
And good prevailed. One thing here that was noteworthy was just kind of the tension between Okada and Ibushi, which was sort of palpable. And it sort of, would trickle over into the finals the next night, which I'm sure we'll talk about it more there. But, I kind of saw it here quite a bit.
Yeah, beginning of the match, Tanahashi and Ibushi are kind of, posing together, and Okada's to the back. Okada's, and he's not down with the whole title unification thing like many fans are. He doesn't want the titles to unify, his legacy to be gone, and so definitely some heat there, which I think is going to build to a big match for Ibushi and Okada.
Yeah, he's taking away all of Okada's records now, and they're rewriting the record books for Ibushi. So I mean, Okada and Tanahashi both have reason to have some heat with Ibushi right now.
Depends on how you look at it. I mean, he also could look at it as him solidifying all of Okada's unbreakable records.
Right.
Very true. Very true.
But that takes us to our semi-main event, and the first semi-final match of the evening. It was Will Ospreay with B. Priestley taking on Dave Finlay with Juice Robinson.
Yeah, I absolutely loved this matchup. You come into this match with the seed of doubt planted in your mind. Can Finlay do it again? Can he get that upset again? And just the way that these guys worked the match was tremendous, with Finlay being the underdog and then building up to that spot where Ospreay pushes him out the ring off of the acid drop. He hurts his leg, and then Ospreay just working over the leg, takes the boot off, has the figure four on, cranking on the ankle, really working that boot. And Finlay becomes that one-legged man in the asking contest, and he is trying, and he's fighting, and he's fighting. You can feel the crowd just getting the empathy for him and getting behind him. and just with every desperation move, you just wanted him. At the end of the match, like, man, I kind of want Finlay to win. And he hits that the prima nocta mid-air out of the Oz cutter, which was awesome. That was a great spot, and like it got so close to hitting the acid drop again. I was just like, oh man, like I can't believe it. I want Finlay to win this.
But once again, it just keeps building Will Ospreay as that guy you want to hate even more, and you've got all the sympathy on Finlay, and well, Will takes it away from you again.
Yeah, one thing I really, really like is, in these tournaments, sometimes, there are certain matchups that you just kind of think, well, it's a foregone conclusion. And I guess that's sort of how you could have seen this one, but with the sort of momentum of the upset that Finlay came in with, it wasn't so much will he win as much as I hope he wins,
right.
And so it was like, I don't think he's going to, but he's someone I can really rally behind and hope to see another, is he the little engine that could? Is he going to get up that hill? And that's always fun and exciting. It's not just, well, Will's going to beat him. It's like, well, maybe he could squeak it out, and even if he doesn't, it's a great story. One thing I noticed, you were telling the story about how like his foot was injured and how that played such a major role in the story. And the way he was selling it just reminded me so much of the several times I've seen Randy Savage when he's like sold foot injuries in matches and like he's had the boot off. A couple times come to memory, the match with Bret Hart at Saturday Night's Main Event, the match with Shawn Michaels over in England, and like Finlay just hopping around on the one foot. I was like, there's no way that he didn't watch some Randy Savage before this match. And it worked like a charm. And yeah, man, I mean, this is a case of someone, gaining more in loss than, potentially what they would have gained in winning. So I think we've always liked David Finlay, but now we're like truly invested in David Finlay, which is awesome. And the heat that Will Ospreay kind of generated for his character going into the finals, I think it really made people want to see him lose going into the last day, which is, that's the goal. He's the heel.
Yeah. And you know what, Josh, you bring up a really good point about that Randy Macho Man Savage selling of the leg, because Savage would sell the leg before the match even started sometimes to really build the sympathy to it. And yeah, you definitely saw shades of that when he was hopping around, boot off. That's just, again, he's a third generational talent, so he's gonna know those tricks of the trade, I guess.
Definitely. We had a question here from Reddit user Just a Little Bear 01. He says, "Do you feel David Finlay has surpassed Juice as the better half of the team?"
That's a tough one to say. I mean, here's my thing. If he's your preference skill-wise, then possibly. But until he's done the things that Juice has done and been the places Juice has been and worked the main events that Juice has worked, don't talk to me about Dave Finlay surpassing Juice Robinson. I know we've been hard on him and had some criticisms over the past year, but he's still Juice Robinson. I mean, I've never seen Dave Finlay perform on the level I've seen Juice do numerous times. So,
yeah, Debbie's built up a lot of momentum, but Juice is still Juice. He's still had a U.S. title reign. He's still been in G1s countless times. When I'm very interested to see if they do give us a Juice versus David match in a G1, and what that could do and what that could build towards would be really interesting. And they've got the Impact Tag title, so who knows what is in store for them on this side of the Pacific as well, leading up to the G1.
Before Dave Finlay beat Jay White, there was Juice beating Kenny Omega, and I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I don't think Finlay has surpassed Juice just yet, but the momentum is starting there. Like I would love to see Finlay in some more single roles later out this year. Hopefully, maybe a G1 like we're speculating about, or just some other match. Maybe give him a never title match. Give him some shots there. And I think building up this body of work could get Finlay to Juice's level. And then, like you mentioned, Matt, I think a rivalry between both these guys would be great.
Yeah, and I still do love that Finn Juice tag team as well. And and I know, and we are talking a bit about David Finlay and G1. There is going to be a couple other factors that come into play into that conversation due to the fact that by the fall, we don't know what the border restrictions are going to be, and we don't know who's going to be available to come into Japan, which is why we saw a couple people in the G1 this year that you wouldn't normally see. I think they're going to. I hope it's built to a part where Finlay does his work to get into that tournament. We'll see how, I don't think, let's just say he doesn't want to be the C block champion anymore. He may have started the C block, but I'm sure he is ready to give the golden thumbs up trophy off to a couple of the younger talent. And he's looking at accumulating points on the big board, not the Twitter board.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough run for him because, you have guys like Great Okan that are on the run. I mean, Kojima, who hasn't had his last G1 yet, has been having a great run this year. There's a lot of guys, and like you mentioned, if things open up, could we see a John Moxley return? Could we see some of these guys who have dual contracts? There's a lot of free agents. La Sombra is, free agent now. Could we see a guy like him popping up in the G1? There's going to be a lot of spots that are going to be very competitive, and you have some guys that are kind of on the border. You have a Yoshihashi who made his case last year and has continued to make his case. He's a guy that fans that want to dismiss, but I think he's a guy that needs to be in there. And you have your Suzukis and guys like that who are older, or fans are like, does he still belong there? So it's going to be very competitive to get a spot in the tournament this year.
I mean, very well. They could do what I've always been saying they should do.
Go to 12?
4 blocks of 6, 24 man. Do it that way.
That would be, that would be. Hey, I mean, why not?
They're never. They don't listen to me.
As I believe it's Bruce Pritchard who would often say, or maybe it was Pat Patterson, show me the stone where it's carved in that it's 2 pools of 10 for the G1. Show me the stone.
Well, let's move on now to the semifinal match. That was the main event of this evening. We had the Dragon, Shingo Takagi, defeating Evil 22 minutes and 43 seconds.
I don't have a lot to say here. It was Shingo against Evil. I think a lot of people hoped and wished that this would be more than it ended up being. But Evil did the unthinkable. He made a Shingo Takagi main event during the New Japan Cup 2021 skippable. It was your standard Evil Dictogo, schlockfest, and Shingo Takagi overcame all the odds for 22 minutes and, lasted the dragon this man and got him the fuck out of here.
Shingo's the warhorse, man. Shingo, I honestly, you can put that guy in the ring with any situation right now, and he is going to give you the same hard hitting you will see in any level, man. Evil and Dick Togo. That comes back to once the borders open up, is Evil going to stay Bullet Club? Is that, was Evil kind of recruited the Bullet Club as a stopgap and give them a big heavy for this run? I'm interested to see what comes out of Evil in the next 6 months.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. That's kind of the idea that we had, with, Jay not being able to come into the country during the beginning of the pandemic. Like, they kind of need that Bullet Club front man, and that's why they put Evil there. And then they were teasing the whole Jay White Evil kind of rivalry or feud, and they kind of dropped that. And he just kind of fallen in line with Bullet Club. So I'm wondering, if there is more of that story, has he, been pulling MJF and maybe kind of building his own faction as he's been in Bullet Club, and then we are going to see this big split down the line? Or is it just, they're like, well, we turned him. He's there. We'll just keep him there for now.
You want the inside scoop? 6 months ago, when you would fire up New Japan World on the Fire Stick, they'd have like 4 or 5 guys, the top guys, and one of those guys that was featured was Evil. Several months ago, Evil's no longer on that Fire Stick opening app. To me, that tells me he is just a guy.
Back to Jag status.
No. I'm sure. No, they've clearly got plans for him.
Photoshop document, eh?
They clearly got plans for Evil. They wouldn't have had him go this deep in this tournament. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, I think the big thing here was, that they wanted to put that, again, that see the doubt in your mind. Evil, he went all the way last year. He was here in semifinals. Was he going to kind of cheat his way again? Shingo with the back taped up, or working on the back. Shingo had, just a murderer's row of people he had to get to this point. He had to face Okada and Goto and Kenta. He just had some very hard-hitting, grueling matches. And so you had a weakened Shingo. You had Evil doing all shenanigans. You had Dick Togo with the garrote wire. So everything was stacked against Shingo, but he overcame the odds and was able to defeat Evil and move on to the finals.
What a story. What a classic. Where were you the night that Shingo?
Oh, man. But yeah, definitely, Shingo's not going to be happy with Evil lowering his average here for, the great matches that he had in this tournament.
So the New Japan Cup Finals was this past Sunday. Normally we kind of run through these undercards. There were some talking points, so I guess we'll touch on those briefly, but we want to get through to talk about the main event. The night, well, actually, before we get to that, the night started off with the unexpected return of Yo of Roppongi 3K. He came out dressed in all black, except for he had brown socks on. That kind of freaked me out. I don't know why. But he came out, addressed the crowd, and basically said, that he'd been gone too long. His knee was 100%. And coming up at Sakura Genesis, he wants to challenge for the junior tag titles with his longtime tag team partner, Sho, and kind of made that intention known and then, left. And that was a welcome surprise. I didn't expect it at all.
Yeah, we had 2 questions here. One from Dom Honey 101. His thoughts on the return of Yo. Is it possible that we may see a swerve and see Yo turn on Sho? And then good friend of the show, Dan Coffin, asks, which one is turning on the other, Sho or Yo?
Well, I don't think either one of these guys want to go to the barber shop just yet. We're going to try to keep that one. Looking at the junior tag division right now, I don't know if you want to turn them. I think you want to kind of have them have another face in there and maybe another run with the tag titles in there if they're able to take the belts. Maybe down the road, but I don't know if you're going to see a turn just yet.
Well, I don't disagree with you, or I'm not saying you're wrong, Mavs, but if we abide by the rule that these guys got to stay together because the junior tag team division is in dire straits and needs them, they are never going to move on in their career ever because this is the shittiest, whatever it's called, division ever. But with that being said, as soon as he came out in all black, I was like, oh, he's turning. That's immediately what I thought. I was like, he's turning. But then, there's 3 or 4 other people on this roster that all could potentially turn right now. It feels like at the end of this show. So I'm like, I don't know. Maybe he won't. Maybe Roppongi 3K will run it right again. I don't know.
Yeah, I see your point, Mavs, with the junior tag titles. I mean, essentially, you got Suzuki-gun and you got Bullet Club with ELP and Taiji, and there's not much else out there. So I could see them in the time being while the border still closed down and they can bring some more juniors in to once again kind of have Roppongi 3K be on top of the mountain. But at the same time, I do think this is a great opportunity to do something new and split them. And, I actually think there's an interesting story of Sho being the one to turn. So this whole time, Sho has...
I didn't need you.
You're right. Yep. Sho, he's been doing singles action. Best of Super Junior finals. He's big. These big never matches with Shingo last year. He's getting all these opportunities. New Japan Cup last year, and so he's been in that single spotlight and been getting that moment. Title match against Hiromu, and Yo's the one that came out and issued the tag title challenge. And maybe Sho might not even be down with that or even knew that was going to happen.
No, he's down for it. He said in the post match comments. Okay. He's good.
But there could be that story of like Show if it's eventually it's like, you know what, like they lose and he's like, you know what, I didn't need you, I was fine this whole year without you. Boom, shock arrow, send them through the barbershop window, and then we get this breakup.
And then where does that put Show at that point? And where does that it's
Show Michaels.
The show must go on. Yeah, who knows?
Right.
Oh man, we will see. We'll find out. But I think it's time for them to start drawing some money in the junior division without Hiromu. So that's one way they can do it if they want to put a shotgun into their arm or whatever. I don't know what the saying is. I'm having a weird night with like idioms and stuff.
That's because we got the expert on here.
Yeah, I guess so.
Man, I have those ones as well, especially throwing a break up here with hockey. Jeez. It's sometimes where I just hear the end of our music, I'm like, I got to wrap this thought. I don't know how to do it. We'll be back.
Just do the NXT, and the show will roll right on.
You watch NXT? Oh my God.
Occasionally. Actually, I haven't watched in like a month or so. It's been a while.
Oh man. So the night started off, first match of the night, Suzuki-gun team, Doki, Taichi, and Zack Sabre Jr. defeated the Young Lion team of Gabe Kidd, Yota Tsuji, and Yuya Yamura. Not a lot of talking points here. The one big talking point, Yota Tsuji did not get his 55,000 or whatever it was likes that he needed. So I don't know if he's going to be fighting Naito anytime soon.
I'd love to see it. I do love me some Tsuji, man. As not to go Jim Ross, but former football quarterback for Yota Tsuji. But yeah, there's a guy who the pandemic has kind of put him in such a holding pattern because he's openly begging to go to CMLL. He wants to get onto his excursion. He's ready for his excursion. He's been Tanahashi's young boy for a long, long time. Tsuji's ready to move on, and I respect New Japan for really sticking with the system and wanting him to go off on excursion, as opposed to just saying, "Well, you've graduated, and now you're no longer a young lion." I respect that they're keeping with that tradition.
Yeah, we're big fans of Tsuji on this show, and I think he's been looking great. Looked great in this matchup here. Also, they kind of continued the story of Zack Sabre Jr. and Gabriel Kidd from their New Japan Cup matchup. I think their interactions were really good. They had a really great Cup matchup as well. And there's a lot of emphasis on Sabre and Taichi kind of getting back in the tag game after both failing the New Japan Cup and challenging GOD.
You know what they're calling GOD? The Dangerous Chodes. Also, post-match, Yuya Uemura was basically like, yeah, Suzuki wasn't there, but I still got a death wish, so I'm trying to fight him. So, yeah, that's still going on. Second match of the night, the United Empire, Great Okan and Jeff Cobb defeated Satoshi Kojima and Tomoaki Honma. Looks like we had a question here.
Yeah, and this question kind of pertaining to the Great Okan and the Yano match from Reddit user Kaiju917. Is, would you have enjoyed the end to Yano Okan's match more if Okan had gotten a DQ and kayfabe reprimanded for charging with the scissors, perhaps a kayfabe fine and suspension? I know we've seen plenty of DQs lately, but how about one that includes the wrestler actually being gone for the remainder of the tour as a result?
For stabbing a guy with scissors? What was that, Vader and Orndorff, or what?
I think it was it Orndorff and
no, it was
Arn?
It was Sid
Arn and Sid. Arn and Sid, yeah.
Arn and Sid, yeah.
Yeah, and so I mean, they could have done the DQ finish. Honestly, we talked about it last week. I felt like that was Okan's match to win. I feel like Okan should have gone a little bit further in the tournament after that big, win over Naito. That was kind of a big moment for him, especially since because he kind of kept losing all the big matches he was having, and so that was kind of a big kind of push for him. And then to kind of have this, ridiculous Banana Peel split loss to Yano, to me, wasn't the right way to go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what they should have done there. I think they probably just shouldn't have booked it. Don't book yourself into a corner if you can't get out. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I don't think I would have preferred it more if he was an idiot and got himself disqualified right after he defeated Naito. So yeah, no, I wasn't a fan of it. No matter, I don't see a book other than him winning. I don't see a booking I would have been happy with in that situation.
Matt, what's your thoughts on the Great Okan? There seems to be a big split between wrestling fandom and wrestling media. Some people think he's a black hole charisma. Some people think he's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Don't say some people. Let's name names. Dave Meltzer thinks that he sucks.
I like him, man. I think for him to come out as a shock in the Empire, and right now to kind of use him as, they're dressing him up like he's a mafia hitman, but then he'll come out like a zombie. But no, I think he's got great fundamentals in the ring. He's getting over. He's being a bit of a power horse, and putting him with Jeff Cobb as well really is a good dynamic 1-2 punch. I like Okan.
Yeah, we're fans of Okan too. I just think everything, the presentation, the in-ring style. I mean, we were fans of him as a young lion, as Oka. And I just think he's been doing a great job since his return. His promos without the mic, he's kind of the yelling and screaming thing at the end for his promos, the screaming with the Mongolian chop. I think there's big upside to the Great Okan. And he's a guy that you can see, he keeps evolving. Every time he comes out, there's something a little bit different. He changes up the tights. The hair is not in the ponytail anymore. It's loose. And he keeps trying new things and doing different stuff and tweaking to really perfect that character.
Go ahead, brother.
I was just going to make a joke. I was going to say I was a fan of Oka before he was a young lion, okay? I followed him in his college days when he was a judoka and he was throwing motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying?
Where he's hitting some Ippon Cianagis. You know what? You made a great point in that he's always kind of evolving, and he's different. I mean, the same kind of thing could be said about Master Wato. Is that when he came out, like when we saw those vignettes, we thought, what in the blue hell is this?
Literally.
And then he came out literally. In
the blue hell is this?
What in the blue hell is this? Man, he's taking that and running with it. And the same with Great Okan.
Yeah, absolutely. Now the big talking point coming out of this, Okan and Jeff Cobb post-match, both teasing that there's a new addition coming to the United Empire, and we'll find out more about that as time goes on. The third match of the night, Bullet Club team, Evil, Kenta, Yujiro Takahashi defeated the team of Sho, Toru Yano, and Yoshihashi. The big story here, though, is that Yoshihashi, who's been fairly protected in recent times, took the pinfall here, and post-match, Kenta stole his walking stick.
Yeah.
his scepter, his power source, if you will. And it seems that they're getting ready to kind of that's probably a impetus to cause a never six-man tag team title shot to be the case. Bull Club against Chaos.
Yeah, definitely kind of commentary kind of drove that fact home. Yeah, Yujiro getting the pin on Yoshihashi. So, yeah, that clearly means that, I think we got a lot of shows coming up. You need some title matches. So, I think we will see Evil, Kenta, and Yujiro challenging Yoshihashi, Goto, and Tomohiro Ishii. And I'm definitely looking forward to the Kenta's promos with Yoshihashi's staff.
Well, we think about, okay, so Yujiro's got his cane. Kenta now has Yoshihashi's staff, I guess, stick. If Evil can bring back his old stick, all three of these guys are coming with lumber, man. Then that's a gimmick in itself, I guess.
Right. I mean, it's hard to beat them, and you have Dick Togo with the wire, so it's like you have a fully.
It's nothing but foreign interference waiting to happen. And if Yujiro can bring back Peter as well, there's another bit of foreign interference I would not mind seeing at the ring.
Yeah, this could become the unbeatable team.
Yeah, the unbeatable team of just loading, it's turning into New Jack with a shopping cart at that point.
Right, like ref bump, bam, hit with a staff. Yeah. Ref bump, bam, hit with a scythe. Boom, ref bump, hit with the wire. Like they're just loaded up with the gimmicks.
And if they're gonna lose, the lights will go out, and then Evil will just be standing behind Yoshihashi
with
Evil
the
falls.
Moving on.
On that note, just shout out to Peter and Miho Abe. Hope to see them back ringside soon. That means all the COVID stuff is well behind us.
I used to make shout outs to Peter and Miho Abe, and then my girlfriend was listening one week and she's like, that was disrespectful.
You know what?
But we're like an hour into the show, so I don't think she'll be listening at this point.
It's all part of us getting back to normalcy, and
Yes.
getting everyone back in the building, getting them at ringside, getting just as say, getting things back to prior to February 2020.
Yeah, I mean, they are big assets to the company. Their presence is greatly missed, and looking forward to their return.
Fourth match of the night, LIJ team of Bushi, Sonata, and Tetsuya Naito defeated the team of Dave Finlay, Juice Robinson, and Toa Henare. The big story here was just the sort of disconnect between Finjuice and Toa Henare, and he was kind of kept on the outside most of the match. Finally tagged in at the very, very tail end as a hot tag, and then he still ended up eating the pinfall. And, after he lost, Finjuice kind of just meandering off and leaving him sort of behind. They sort of left him during the entrance, sort of left him during the post match, and he seems to be a man sort of on his own there, and he just keeps losing.
Yeah, we're seeing the frustration building up with Toa Henare, another guy that's been kind of treading water, kind of stuck in the same spot. No matter how hard he tries, he just can't kind of break through to that next level, and we're seeing that frustration is finally starting to come out now.
I know why. It's because he went to Thailand and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna learn Muay Thai. And then he came back. He's like, I learned Muay Thai. And then Gato's like, why didn't you go to a wrestling camp?
Well, you know what? You bring up the Muay Thai and the MMA and all the training. It really could be built into Henare coming back as an absolute killer. We don't know that if they bring him back to be a guy that is going to just focus on strikes and submissions and trying to get those quick submissions, as you don't want to have Inokiism, but you want to have a guy that comes in with that strong style, big fight mentality. Maybe that could be where this leads, especially with all the frustration building over to Toei, where he is getting himself to be that focused individual to, look at the competitive nature of the pro wrestling aspect.
I have to disagree. I absolutely want Inokiism. As soon as you started describing what he might be doing, I was like, yes, put this 2003 Inokiism into my veins. Orange Crush 2.
I don't want to see Miko Krokop versus Yuki Nagata ever again. For the love of God.
Oh, man. But yeah, I kind of wish that they would have played more into Toa Hanare's Muay Thai. I know he has been incorporating it into his matches, but I wish that would have brought him back with an edge. But clearly, there's some kind of story they're going to be telling here now of him kind of, showing his frustration. There's a lot of speculation on what this could mean for his future, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. But yeah, so
I hope he starts having little girl tantrums a la Chris Jericho 1997. Just starts bashing a steel chair on the ground, crying in the ground.
Conspiracy?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
After that, the fifth match of the night, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Kazuchika Okada, and Kota Ibushi teamed up once again to defeat Bad Luck Fale, Chase Owens, and Jay White. I mean, I don't know any three-man team that could defeat Tanahashi, Okada, and Ibushi, so it's sort of unfair. But
well, you say that, but when Tanahashi and Okada came together, they
lost every single match.
Yeah, the Mega Aces came together, and then
the Mega Aces alone are not enough. They need the third part of the trifecta, and that is the God, not of pro wrestling, just God, God with a capital G himself, Kota Ibushi. Oh my God.
Yeah, for the God Kota Ibushi has now become God, along with the Mega Aces. You look at that, you think about that team of those three guys. So Tanahashi, Okada, and Ibushi. If we ever get back to a World Cup of Wrestling, put that team against anyone, man.
Yeah. There was what was it? Fall Brawl 95. The team was Lex Luger, Sting, Macho Man Randy Savage, and Hulk Hogan against the Dungeon Doom. It's like, there's no fucking way. There's no fucking...
Wasn't that the intro of the Yeti?
I think it was around that. It was like in that. I don't think that was the same show because I think the Yeti was Halloween Havoc night.
Right. I think. Yeah.
But it's like around that same time period. Like, bro, nobody's fucking beating them.
Yeah. Nobody's beating, Okada, Tanahashi, and Ibushi. They better hope that, Ishii and Goto and Yoshihashi better hope those guys that want to challenge, get some more gold in their repertoire there.
The two big talking points, though, more continued tension between Okada and Ibushi. Mm-hmm. Just a lot of tension. Okada not feeling this Ibushi double title run / unification whatsoever. And then a lot of jaw-jacking post-match between Ibushi and Jay White, and then Tanahashi and Jay White. During the post-match comments, Jay White basically stated that he's at a point where he has done a complete 180 on his stance about not unifying the titles. He said that was childish thinking. He doesn't care about histories. He doesn't care about legacies. He only cares about looking forward. And if the new World Heavyweight IWGP title is the main title, that's the belt he needs to be holding in the future. In the meantime, he's going to forge his own legacy. And the way he's going to do that, become the first and only ever quadruple IWGP champion. The first man to win both the IWGP title, the IC title, the US title, and finally the Never title. So he is coming after Hiroshi Tanahashi's Never belt. I kind of looked at the histories. There's not too many people that are still out there that are even eligible to do this feat. And if he does it, he probably will be. I mean, unless Kenny Omega comes back and decides to fight for the Never belt, I don't think anyone else is doing this thing.
I do like how they're building up the Never belt, because if they do take the IC title away and with the US title stuck somewhere in Ohio, I assume, it would, you do want to elevate the stock of the Never Open Championship. And, Ishii did it. Shingo did it. Tanahashi's done it. That championship title. And I mean, I've had a chance to write for Monthly Pro Wrest, and that's one of the things we've talked about was about how that title has really, it's had a great, the rise hasn't been like GameStop. It's risen quite well. The stock stayed very high. It hasn't crashed yet. So we want to just see it just keep growing.
Yeah, I wrote a piece for the Voices of Wrestling year-end ebook, this past ebook that came out this past year, talking about the Never title, with 2020 being the year of Never. And with, Shingo, I think did a tremendous job of elevating that title and the main events he had, and the feud with Suzuki, and then, facing off against juniors like Desperado and Show. And the Never title is it's just an open possibility of what you can do with it. And it's just been, every time it's out there, it's a great main event. We get these great matches. And so now you have the ace Tanahashi holding it, and Tanahashi, Jay White, those are two big stars, two former IWGP champions. That's definitely a match you can use to main event. There's several big shows coming up that we've talked about. We got Don Taku coming up. We got all these stadium shows coming up. Dominion will be here before we know it. You need something that you can throw in these main events, and so Tanahashi Jay for the Never title could work.
Tanahashi versus Jay for the IWGP title is not fitting enough. The only title that is fitting enough is the Never title. The Never title is up here. The IWGP title, that shit's washed. The Never committee is much better than the IWGP committee.
Yes.
There's a certain grit that goes with these Never title matches. And I think it's, and you, Jeremy, you nailed it. The way Shingo has built that belt has exemplified just how tough it is to hold, and the challengers for that championship. Like Ibushi, I think he talked about how this is the best belt. This is when he was breaking down the belts for both the heavyweight and the Intercontinental. Well, that Never title is all about the grit, and we see that in those matches for sure.
Yeah, 100%. So some things to look forward to there, and then that's going to take us to the sixth match of the night, which was the main event for the New Japan Cup 2021 finals as Will Ospreay with B. Priestley took on the Dragon Shingo Takagi.
Matt, you take it away first on this one. What do you think of this matchup here?
Yeah, the word, I'm trying to count what words I need to use. This match fucking delivered. There it is. 4 words. Holy, yeah. I mean, we've seen them. We've seen them 3 times before, and once again for the New Japan Cup. To build to Ospreay and Shingo, like, I mean, the spot where Ospreay just gets flipped over with the pumping bomber and comes off his wild cutter. Like,
people were mad about that.
I understand people are mad about that. Yeah, you know what, man? Like, that is a, oh my God, I'm on my feet and instinct takes over moment right there. Well, that is how we could pitch that.
Like, nobody rolls with punches in boxing. You know?
Yeah. Like, there's no one stomps their foot in boxing either. So,
do they slap their thighs in boxing?
There's no legs. There's no thigh slapping in UFC, guys. But yeah, guys, like, that match. Holy shit. Like, again, an absolute thrill ride. And you really are thinking, okay, we are going to have Shingo Ibushi. We're building to it. We're seeing it. And once again, what does that guy do? Rips it right away from us.
Yeah, I freaking love this match. This was tremendous. The work was spectacular. Like you mentioned, Mavs, we've seen these guys before. It's always great stuff. A little bit of a different story here. This, Will's a full-on heel now. He's not a junior heavyweight. He's not doing so much the high flying, but he did kind of revert back to the high flying here for this matchup. We saw the Os cutter from the inside to the floor was a great spot. We saw the 450 from the inside to the outside. Shingo's laying through a table. That was an incredible spot. And yeah, there's so many great sequences and counters and spots in this matchup between these two guys. And they have amazing chemistry. I could watch these guys wrestle each other all day long. And like you mentioned, Mavs, they did an excellent job building Shingo. We've seen Shingo kind of show this grit and resiliency throughout all the big battles he's had throughout the tournament. But this was the final battle was just too much for him here. The body came in being down. The back was taped up. I mean, Ospreay had his weaknesses too with the shoulder and the nose, but Shingo just really had some wars. I mean, Ospreay had the Sabre match, but you look at Ospreay's path, he had Tenzon in the beginning, then the Sabre, then the match with Finlay. Like, he had a hard path, but I don't think it was as hard as Shingo's path. And Shingo's body was just beaten down, and Will was just able to finally overcome and take advantage of him towards the end there.
Making a lot of excuses. Let me just say, this is the third match Will Ospreay and Shingo have had with one another. In my opinion, this is the third best match that they have ever had. I'm going 4 3/4 on this match. That tells you how good every match between Will Ospreay and Shingo Takagi is. A true classic. This might be like my second favorite New Japan match of the year this year. Followed, I think, only behind like the Tokyo Dome main event with Jay White and Kota Ibushi. Yeah. This match was incredible. 2021 TYBY, the young boys' year. This is the second time that I have accurately predicted the winner of one of the major tournaments. I got GOD back in December. Oh wait, did I not get the? I didn't get the
Super Juniors.
Super Juniors. No, I did.
We did.
Yeah, I said it was gonna be Hiromu. Oh God, so I'm 3 for 3 right now. So I'm on a roll, bro. This is my year. But I only say that because I got Will Ospreay and Shingo as the finals, and I gotta tell you, I was predicting Will to win this thing from the get-go, but last week I was not thinking Will was winning this at all. After seeing Shingo main event all these major events and have all these great matches, and the story, like just like Mav said, like it completely seemed like they were getting ready to build for an Ibushi Shingo match. That was not to be the case whatsoever. The logic that I went into the tournament with, that Will being the new leader of the United Empire kind of needed that jumpstart to sort of solidify himself, and I'm not convinced he's not even going to beat Kota Ibushi. I'm hearing a lot of people saying he has no chance, but I'm not sure that that's even the case at this point at all. But this match was just so incredible. It followed your very typical match layout. Hot start, there was a heat, and then there was a shine, and then a heat, and then a comeback, and all that was fine. But what made it special was like the way that they worked in those body injuries that you were talking about, Jeremy. It wasn't just Shingo getting a shine, but it was him focusing on the shoulder, focusing on the nose, and then Will turning around and being like, fuck your lower back. You think you're going to walk? And then them going out there at the end of it and doing the things that only they can do, plus, all the inclusion of B. Priestley and everything that she sort of added to the match. And, we're not always the biggest proponents of outside interference and shenanigans, but when it's put in the right framework and context, it can add to a match. And I think she was an asset to this match, and it really just made things even better. And it made it different than the first two matches that we've seen between these two. It wasn't just a rehash of old things, but they also still paid homage to the spots and everything like that from the first two matches. And the craziest thing was at the end here, once Will finally got him up for the Stormbreaker, and then he landed it, I thought to myself, I was so convinced that Shingo was winning that I was like, we're about to see the first person ever kick out of this move. And then when the 3 landed, I was like, oh my God, he beat Shingo. And I was like literally shocked. Like my mouth was like agape, and I was like, I can't believe they fucking beat Shingo. Like I knew they were going to beat Shingo from before the tournament started, but once they built him up to this point, I was like, there's no way he's losing. Like, he's clearly gonna be the guy. Like, he's following this certain trajectory, and then Will fucking beats him. Ugh. I mean, this is drama. This is art at the highest level. It's crazy.
And also, and Jeremy, you playing up on those injuries, it really is a testament to build on Shingo about how much he went through to get to the finals, and also on Will, where he had his shoulder injury, he had his busted nose. It's one, I come from, I have my hockey background, and I'm reminded of a story about when Wayne Gretzky and the Oilers, and this will go off on a little weird sports tangent. Gretzky and the Oilers, who became a dynasty in the 80s, they first lost their first Stanley Cup appearance. They lost the finals to the New York Islanders. And when they were walking past the dressing room of the Islanders, who had just won the Stanley Cup, they looked in and they expected to see all kinds of partying, all kinds of celebration. And all they saw were ice bags and these guys just nursing the wounds of war from going through hell to get to the finals and win the championship. And that's the story I get out of everything that Shingo went through, of him. He now knows what it takes to get to the finals, and he now realizes what he has to do to win one of these tournaments and be, get to a championship elevation. I know it goes back to the '84 Oilers and the New York Islanders, and that's a deep dive. But I think you guys are picking up what I'm putting down.
Definitely, yeah. I think they did a great job elevating Shingo's stock in this tournament, having him go through former New Japan Cup winners in Okada and Goto, Kenta winning the U.S. New Japan Cup last year. beating Evil, who won the New Japan Cup last year as well, former double champion. They had him beat all these key guys. Mentioned he was in the main events. I think he's finally getting out of that, never mid-card middle ground and being elevated. We're going to see him in more main events. We're eventually going to see him challenge for that IWGP title. There was definitely teases within the match with him and Ibushi. There was times where Shingo would be, knocked out on the outside, and he was pulling himself back up by the guardrail and staring Ibushi in the face, and they kind of had their little jaw jack, and Ibushi was just kind of like smugly looking at him like, come on, get up, get back in there, And so there's been teases between those guys. So I definitely think there's a big Shingo-Ibushi match down the line, and we are going to see Shingo challenge for the IWGP World Heavyweight title in the future.
I would challenge and wonder if there's anybody that can find a more difficult route to get to the finals for any other finalists ever in the New Japan Cup. I mean, the very fact that these tournaments are now 32-man tournaments and not 16, that adds, a whole different wrinkle to it. But I mean, when you look at the list of guys, I mean, in recent modern years, since we've been doing this podcast, the only guy that's gone to the finals that's done anything similar that I can think of is like maybe when
Sabre.
I was going to say Zack Sabre in 2018. Other than that, I mean, nobody else has had the same murderers row. And you know what? This is probably harder than what Zack Sabre went through in 2018. So yeah, he went through like a litany of top guys to win or, to get to the finals and then to lose at the end. And it's something I've always said is that, oftentimes Gato books tragedies, and that's what this is.
Yep.
It's another tragedy.
And like you mentioned, Mavs, he knows how to get to the finals now. I think it's going to be one of those stories kind of similar to Sonata, like we've seen, every year Sonata was kind of getting further and further until he finally won it. I think we're going to see with Shingo. He's going to keep getting better in these tournaments. G1 time, he's going to probably do better in G1, and eventually he's going to get to these finals again, and he's going to win.
Yeah.
That's something I was going to say. This is good news in a certain respect because it's not often that New Japan leaves us any breadcrumbs or trails that they don't actually end up paying off. And one of the things that they're telling us here, we've already seen these two guys go into the finals of the Super Juniors. He didn't have enough to beat Will at that time. On this night, there was a lot of shenanigans, things that kind of played a factor into the match, and he came up short again. It's telling me that there's a very good likelihood that these two guys will end up in some sort of finals again. I don't know that that's 100% the case, but it's not unreasonable to think that they might end up in a G1 final against one another. And maybe that's the time when Shingo finally wins it. Normally, had you asked me prior to this, do I think Shingo's going to win a G1? I would have said no. But coming off the heels of this tournament, I'm like, you know what? I could see it happening. And I didn't feel that way prior to this tournament at all.
Would you rather see Shingo win a New Japan Cup or a G1? And I think I know the answer.
Yeah. I want to see Shingo in the Dome, main eventing for the IWGP Heavyweight title.
And now I feel like they promised it to us without actually saying it. And if they don't do it, I'm going to be pissed.
You think a social contract's been established, eh?
Yeah. Well, yeah, so this match was absolutely incredible, but we got to talk about what happened post-match.
Oh, God. Dun, 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 dun.
So after the match, Will Ospreay grabs the mic. He's doing his post-match promo, calls the current double champ, Kota Ibushi, into the ring to challenge him for the Secure Genesis matchup, and he has a whole United Empire in the ring with him. He's cutting this promo talking about how much he loves being number one and how he's striving for the title and how he loves it more than anything and anyone. And then he hits the Oz Cutter out of nowhere on his girlfriend B Priestley. Stunned, silent crowd not knowing what to make of it. Both English and Japanese commentators really don't know how to explain it. Either kind of caught off guard. Big kind of discussion online on Twitter, Reddit, Facebook. New Japan fans whether or not this angle should have happened, whether it kind of leans into domestic violence, whether it's right or wrong. So a lot of big talking points here. We had a lot of questions on it as well. Kind of kick us off from Rambo and Slam Piggy asks, what were you thinking about the show-ending angle on Sunday, especially given speaking out recently?
And this is the one where you get the serious voice on, and you say right off the hop, domestic violence of any kind is not tolerated and should not be tolerated, and just it has no place. Now, to compare a wrestling angle to domestic violence, I struggle with that a bit, knowing what we know about pro wrestling, because and you don't want to use the excuse of, well, it's wrestling. If Will Ospreay was dragging B to the ring and publicly berating her and slapping her and doing these, and that emotional and mental manipulation, then yeah, I would have a problem with that. That's a domestic violence angle. What you saw of him hitting his finish out of nowhere, the Oz cutter out of nowhere onto B, that's something that is in the world of wrestling, and it does make you uncomfortable. The one good thing I'll say out of it is everyone online and everyone that saw it all agree, Jesus, why the hell would he do that? Why the hell would he do that? You don't see anyone going, oh, hell, he really got her there. Because you don't want to, that's not what you want to see at all.
Right.
That he's a bad guy. It's what the bad guy does. And I can understand, I come at it with a different perspective, and it's something that's, it's not in my life. So, and apologies to if you're on that, if there's, if that's a part of your life, find a way to get your help, find a way to get out of the situation by hook, crook, or anything. Get yourself out of that situation. But to look at it in a wrestling angle is, it's what the bad guy does. Now, that said, Jeremy, you nailed it. The English commentary, the Japanese commentary, and the fans were all left wondering what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
And again, if you had a top heel in 2011, before we had English commentary, before we had translations real time, delivering a promo like that, and then hitting an Oz cutter on their valet, and we're watching this real time, we would be left trying to figure out what the hell happened. And that might be an example of where Will just cut a big promo in English. And I know there are many English speakers in Japan, and I get to interact with them quite a bit. But there's a lot of people that are not going to understand that. And then to see him just hit the Oz cutter and leave, that's a spot for Greater Khan to pick up the microphone and really nail down the fact in Japanese to say, he did this to the woman he loved. What's he going to do to you in the ring? So that people get an idea in-house of what they're reacting to, as opposed to just seeing it being like, what is that? Why did he just do that to B? What, and left with more questions. And so that's, and again, that's my roundabout thoughts on it. And is it right? Is it wrong? I don't know. I'm not the one to say. But again, comparing situations of domestic violence to an Oz cutter in a wrestling ring, in where parties kind of agree to it.
Right.
Like, yeah, there might be a little, okay, pump the brakes on it. You know, as I said, if there's a wrestler coming to a ring and they think it's heat for him to abuse his valet, there's no place for that in the business. And there's a term called cheap heat on that, you know, and that's not good. It's just not done. But that's my roundabout thoughts on it.
There's a lot of high emotions, high feelings when it comes to this particular angle, to Will Ospreay in general, and the entire booking. And I'm not here to say anybody is right or wrong, because if you feel strongly a particular way, I'm sure you have reasons that are justified for it. Me being an analytical individual, I've kind of looked at every angle here, and I'm sure, a lot of with my dealings of New Japan fans in general, most of the fans seem to be like pretty intelligent, pretty well aware of what pro wrestling is, and, pretty educated on kayfabe, that sort of thing. So this one's been kind of interesting because, kind of like what Mavs alluded to, there's been a lot of like allusions to the idea that that this is an angle that involved domestic violence. And I guess you could, hypothetically, there's a way you could spin it to being that way, because it was an unprovoked attack from a male partner against his female partner. So you could put it within that framework. At the same time, this isn't, and this doesn't justify it, but it's not any different from many other, single move attacks that we've seen, say, in the WWE over the years. Randy Orton RKOing Beth Phoenix, or Triple H, doing a pedigree on like Stephanie, stuff like that. And again, that doesn't justify it, but there are times where male and female performers will become physical with one another because it's an entertainment show. It is a wrestling angle. And I don't believe personally that when they did this, it was supposed to be like the way that Maz is kind of explaining it, a domestic violence or a domestic, manipulation sort of situation. It wasn't Rena Mero Sable and Mark Mero and him berating her and manipulating her. It wasn't that sort of situation. It was more like, for better or for worse, the idea here was, I am a madman and I love this title more than this person who I've devoted all these 5 years of my life to. Bam, cutter, Now, I think that this was not performed well. I hadn't even, until we talked to Mavs before the show started, I hadn't even thought of the language barrier aspect of it. He cut the whole, gimmick in fucking English. Nobody translated it. And for the live Japanese audience, they didn't know how to respond to it. We kind of know at this point that, like, most of the times when like an English speaker gives a babyface promo, I'm going to fight for you guys, New Japan. Yeah. People clap, out of respect, but that doesn't mean they know exactly what they're saying. They kind of just get the gist of it. But this is a little different. Like, he decided to, go a different route and Oz cutter his girlfriend.
Right.
And nobody knew how to react to it. And I think this was a situation where New Japan, if they were going to do this, they should have clued in more of the members of staff, because from the reports we're hearing, most of the performers and stuff weren't expecting this. This is highly irregular for a Perezu company, this type of angle. And they should have clued in the color commentators and the people calling the action, because I understand sometimes you want to get an authentic reaction out of them. But if it's going to be this bizarre and this, kind of aloof done, I don't know that you don't want them to know ahead of time to put it over and what the story is, because I listened to both the English and the Japanese commentary, and they seem to not know at all what was going on.
Yeah, so there were reports that, Milano Collection AT, Japanese commentary team, they had no idea about the angle. Kevin Kelly, Gino, Chris, they had no idea about the angle. And so they're just kind of stuck trying to, tried their best to try to explain what's happened. But
Ibushi looked like he didn't know what was going on.
Right. From what I heard, it was just United Empire members in the office that knew about the angle. There's reports several veteran wrestlers were upset about the angle and not being clued in. My whole thoughts on the situation, I definitely understand people who are upset about it. I understand, like you mentioned, Josh, how people could see it in that domestic violence light, especially coming out, speaking out last summer, and just how that had effect on the Brit Rest scene and just some of the horrible stories that we heard coming out of that scene this past year. And not to mention the kind of controversy that Will and B kind of have with the Pollyanna situation, the Sadie Gibbs situation, and just the fact that people just don't like Will Ospreay in general. And so I know there's a lot of different factors that are fueling that outrage. Initially, my initial thoughts when I saw what happened was this is a pro wrestler hitting a safely executed move to another pro wrestler who agreed to this angle.
Right.
We've seen these guys have a match last summer. There is a clamoring for intergender wrestling within the wrestling community. There are people that want to see more men versus women action. Now, like you said, Mavs, like I'm not the one to say whether this was right or wrong, but just kind of from a standpoint of like, all right, these are two wrestlers in a relationship. They agreed to this. He had a safe move. I don't really, to me, I don't see it as a domestic violence thing, but I understand how people can see it because they are in a real relationship and it was an unprovoked attack.
I'm sure what's going on too is from what the reports look like, based on the dates, based on the opportunities that are being given, they're increasing the workload and the presence that B. Priestley is going to have in Stardom. That's kind of what it seems like. And so there was a lot of conflicts that were going on between, her time working in New Japan. Unfortunately, I had a joke ready to go. I was going to make a joke before this angle happened about how she's the only female that shows up in full gear, even though she's not wrestling. Little did I know she's going to get hit with a wrestling move.
Right.
So I kind of had that prepped and ready to go for the show, but then, she took an Oz cutter and then the world blew up. But, I'm sure that from the framework and the mindset of a pro wrestler, and I'm saying this as someone who works with pro wrestlers, here's probably what the deal was. I can't keep working New Japan. So they think to themselves, okay, well, then what do we do next? Well, we got to write you out because, if we're going to write you out, we got to get heat on Will because that's the whole point of you being here. What's the best way? Oh, my God, I can Oz cut you. And she's like, yeah, that would be great. You Oz cut me, explains why I'm gone. Now the heat's on you, and this is good for both of us, Mm-hmm. And go ahead.
And sorry, no, continue. Sorry, Jared. Sorry, Josh.
I'm just thinking that's maybe hypothetically what a conversation like that might have gone through the minds of two pro wrestlers who are thinking of the business, and they're like, well, if I'm leaving, we got to get heat on it because that's how wrestlers think.
And you know what? And they probably approached B with the idea, and Will probably said, "What if I give you an Oz cutter?" And B thought, "Take a bump during a New Japan match, in a New Japan ring and a New Japan angle. Yes, I'm in. Yes." And again, we were joking about it before. If I was dating a girl that was a wrestler, I mean, the two of us. I mean, I'm not trained. I'm nowhere near trained. I know how to fall. That's about it. I'd be saying, all right, we're doing moves after the second date. I'm saying, all right, we're calling spots. So
bump, feed, bump.
Yeah, exactly. All right, you're gonna light my chest up now. Anyways, that's a whole different story. But you know what? And I'm actually very interested in what happens with B and Stardom now, coming off the heels of this. If they acknowledge it, if they play into it, or if it just is on the other promotion, so it kind of stays away. And guys, I'll say again, I have really been enjoying what Stardom has been doing as well. That's been a promotion I've been keeping my eye on very closely. So I think it's, the Tam Nakano Julia main event from Budokan was really fun to watch. So if you're on that fence of Stardom, make sure you cheer on the women as well, because it's been it's great wrestling too, man. So, and it's not just Maki Ito and the Joshi scene either.
This is a tough line to kind of cross, though, because, and I haven't seen too much of this, but it feels like there's an underlying feeling of people saying, like how could he hit her with a move? But it's like, but she's a trained wrestler. You know what I mean? And if it's the portrayal that you have problems with, I do understand that. But if your problem is that a female wrestler took a move from a male wrestler, and you don't like the optics of it, I don't know what to tell you, because that's what pro wrestling is. It is a work, and you kind of have to understand that going into it, because like Mav said, they're probably hitting each other with moves all the time, and this was something that was done extremely safely. And it's sort of like we kind of have to decide, like, are wrestlers supposed to be treated equally, and can they, do moves to one another, or is it something where, it needs to be gender specific and fall into those roles and that sort of thing? Like, how do you want to define that? And that's a whole different discussion altogether.
Right.
It looked like Omega broke that 11-year-old's back.
My biggest, one of the things I do think that's concerning, though, is, this is the second time in recent months that New Japan as a company has done something involving a talent that was, I don't want to say they're the same thing, but, they were involving Marty Scurll with Strong. There was a huge outcry for that. And then, recently this thing with B and Will, and this is something you said off the air to me, Jeremy, was that had this been any other couple, there probably wouldn't be this outcry. But because of the heat that's on them, because of what happened with Sadie Gibbs and what happened with Pollyanna, it just kind of amplifies the fire behind it. And I don't know how wise the office would have been, or the booker, whoever it was that okayed this, given the light of all that stuff. And is there anyone in the office that's telling these people, like, hey, the fans in the West are not going to be cool with this because of X, Y, and Z, and this is the second time something like this has happened in recent times. So I don't know how, from my perspective, I'm fine with the angle. I'm just not fine with the insensitivity, and I'm not fine with the actual, I don't think it was done effectively. Had it been done effectively, I would have been fine with it. And I guess the last thing I'll say is, I do think that, though, there is a chance post-mortem, with how heated this thing has become, that they might still actually be able to salvage it long-term, even though it didn't come off well to the live audience. People are pissed. Mm-hmm. And the whole idea was to get heat. And I know that there's some people saying it might be the wrong heat, but ultimately it does feel like people might literally be against Will now based off of it. And so going into this match with Kota Ibushi, who knows that it doesn't have the intended effect long-term anyways.
Right. Yeah, and we had some questions here. Let's kind of run through these. I think we might have covered some of the answers here.
I think we've covered a lot of it. We don't have to discuss it all, but if there's something that, we can touch on, sure.
Yeah, Dom Homie's question, he asked any thoughts on people comparing the closing angle of New Japan Cup Finals to domestic violence. We kind of just talked about that.
He said I want to throw out what they're saying, too.
Yeah, go for it.
To be honest, I feel like people are just overreacting, and it's kind of an insult to compare it to domestic violence. I had to put an end to a domestic and violence situation involving my cousin, and that shit was not comparable to a wrestling angle. Sorry for rant, but I had to get some shit off my chest.
And that really is a great point. Is if domestic violence is a real thing in your life, and you see, people complaining that is an example of domestic, like a pro wrestling angle, as we've talked about, is domestic violence, you're gonna say, you pump the brakes, man. Domestic violence is real, and pro wrestling's a work.
Right.
Mr. Bang Pop said here, if Ospreay didn't have so much justified controversy around him, Would he be the clear leader for Wrestler of the Year right now? And I think possibly. I find the beat angle really distasteful for reasons Karen Sensei and others have talked about at length, but I blame The Office as much as I'd blame Ospreay for potentially pitching it. On the other hand, his match quality is the best in the promotion as right now, and his faction produces more interesting undercard matches with young lions than anyone else around, except Suzuki-gun, it seems like. A lot of the Hantai Okada Bullet Club multi-man tags are unwatchable for me, but I haven't missed a single United Empire one, and they really seem to be holding interest in the promotion for me almost by themselves sometimes. I'm also impressed with how Will's used every singles match he's had to either build his stiff physical style while making his opponents look strong like Kojima or Finlay, or to tie the knot on stories with longtime rivals in clear match of the year contenders with Shingo ZSJ. The ZSJ match was truly a masterpiece. I'm disappointed a bit because I wish Ibushi's character arc was more interesting, but I feel the title unification thing has hampered him. Thoughts?
Well, thanks for that question there, Mr. Bang Pop. Will Ospreay could be a guy that is considered a Wrestler of the Year candidate, based off Wrestle Kingdom with Okada, the Zack match, the Shingo match, and the Kojima match. He's been having an incredible year, but I think, the guy he faced in the finals, Shingo Takagi, is another guy you can throw up there with the Cobb match from Wrestle Kingdom, the Tanahashi match, and then Shingo's matches throughout this New Japan Cup with Okada and Goto and Kenta, and just how consistently great he's been. I don't think it's a clear lock for Will right now. I think you got Shingo, guys like Tanahashi. There are still some guys, Ibushi, that can make some cases for being Wrestler of the Year.
For some of the complaints about the booking of this tournament, there's no denying that they went with a 1A, 1B situation and gave us the top two guys in the company in the finals, which is pretty awesome.
Spring into Lowe's and plant the seeds of possibility. With premium mulch for just $3.68 a bag and Stay Green 1 cubic foot garden soil just $4.28 a bag, you'll grow possibilities right from the ground, like skipping the grocery store because your yard grew the whole salad. And it grew you tulips, too. Oh, yard, you shouldn't have. Visit your local Lowe's or shop online at Lowe's.com. Lowe's, home to any budget, home to any possibility. While supplies last, mulch offer in-store only. Selection and offer availability varies by location. Offers valid through 3/10, U.S. only. Excludes Hawaii.
The entrepreneurial spirit is resilient, and U.S. Bank is here to make sure that no matter what unknown pops up, business owners know that we have their back. Because problem solvers are the ones that keep us all moving forward by finding ways to close gaps, even when distances are being kept everywhere. So whatever you need to adapt and evolve your business, U.S. Bank is here to support you. U.S. Bank. We'll get there together. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
And then as far as Ibushi's character and the title unification, it's been really interesting what they've been doing there. It kind of feels like
he needs a foil, man.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a good foil. That's the problem. Like, they haven't. The one foil he pretty much had was like Naito, and that whole story was hampered by the IC situation and blah, blah, blah. Like, he hasn't just had the true, proper, rival to kind of define his title reign.
Right.
I mean, they give him Sonata and Despy, and I'm not shitting on them, but I mean, it was Sonata and Despy.
Right. I feel like he needs that one guy to kind of push him to the next level. People kind of talk about like Omega was that for Okada, the guy that really pushed him to the next level. And so,
or like Tanahashi and Okada.
Right.
So we'll see.
We had a question.
You always need a good dance partner, boys. You always need a good dance partner to make it a success.
We had a question from Reddit user Grunty Dodd. It says, prior to being overshadowed by the post-match angle, Will no-selling the pumping bomber was a talking point in Twitter. Did this bother you at all, or was it no big deal?
We kind of touched on that. I mean, I think the biggest thing for me was like he got hit with it, but he was also doing the flip over at the same time. It reminded me of like when a great boxer will roll with the punches. That's not just an idiom saying like it is a thing. You take the impact off of the strike by going in the same direction as the strike to, it still hurts, still take damage, but nowhere near the amount of damage. He was clearly getting hit with it, but rolling over him at the same time. So in kayfabe, that's the way I would explain that away.
if anything, it shows the power of the pumping bomber to knock him head over feet, man.
Right, yeah, and kind of reminds me of like my amateur wrestling days, similar kind of, you were mentioned with the boxing, Josh. We do like re-rolls off of throws. Like a guy is giving you a head and arm throw, and you drop your weight, like you're still getting thrown, but you re-roll through and use that momentum to kind of end up on top and pinning them. So yeah, I still got thrown, but I re-rolled, and now I'm in a better position.
Physics. Grunty Dodds asked us, oh, my bad, sorry. Why did you do that, bro? Asked us, was the B Priestley angle as awkward as I thought, or was it just me? I feel like Ospreay should have said a little more in the ring after that instead of just awkward silence, which I totally agree with that. He also said, number 2, likelihood that Ibushi loses the World Heavyweight Championship on his very first defense.
Yeah, I think the awkward silence, definitely felt that, and that played to Mav's point earlier. Like they should have had Okan grab the mic, kind of explain things to the Japanese crowd to maybe, explain to them and get their feelings on it. I think that would have helped out a lot.
Get at least some bit of reaction, even though they're not allowed to yell. And again, the New Japan crowd domestically is 40% women. So you really are playing that out in front of a crowd that is going to be wondering a lot why. Well, has a vested interest even more than a North American crowd as to why that action just took place. So I think, yeah, it really was something that just kind of it
seems like
felt
a missed
flat.
opportunity.
Yeah, it fell flat. It fell flat in the ring, but it took on legs of its own on a very the wrong way they wanted to go.
Right.
Well, we'll see how they go with it long term. I mean, maybe this is something that's damaging. That remains to be seen. It could also be something that is salvageable and potentially, bettering for his character long term. But right now, it feels completely up in the air, honestly. But in that moment, it definitely sucked.
Yeah. And then for his second question, personally, I don't think Ibushi is going to lose the title. I'm not saying it can't happen. But I just feel like what they've been building with him and Okada and those big stadium shows coming up, I think we're getting Ibushi Okada at one of those Wrestle Grand Slam shows for the World Heavyweight title.
It's a possibility, but we talked the other week, what could this company possibly do going into Yokohama, going into the Dome, and I'm excited to see what they give us because the truth is the company's not the hottest they've ever been right now. And so they really need to kind of wow us with these cards. Maybe they do decide to do something really creative with Ibushi, but I've got a feeling that if you switch the title to Ospreay, it opens up a plethora of opportunities and options that could draw super well in both of those environments, where I'm not completely convinced you can do that with Ibushi. He's danced with most of these dance partners over the past couple years. You could try on short notice to build that, Okada feud. But beyond that, I'm not sure what else there is you could do in a Dome other than bring in Kenny Omega. I don't know.
Well, yeah, that's the old. There's always money in the chase, and when you have that guy that you want to see lose as your top draw. Yeah, you are going to have people put down their money to see Will get beaten. That's a good point. That's a very good point.
The other thing too to think about with Will Ospreay is like he's the leader of this new group. They're really trying to push the group. He had one really big match against Okada and he lost on a big stage. This next match is going to be the next really big match on a big stage, and if he loses again, I'm not saying that the group's done or anything like that. No hyperbole here, but it's a huge setback for him as the leader. And I don't know what that means for the future of the United Empire going forward.
Right. And I guess there is time between Secure Genesis and those Dome shows if they want to do a quick title change, have Will run with it, and then Ibushi gets it back to do the Okada match. That could
they could run it back, yeah.
Yeah, they could potentially do that. Next question here from Reddit user Viking Pain. He says, guys, ahead and tell me there's something big down the road of Shingo Takagi. I know Gato likes booking things far in advance, but I was really hoping he would win the New Japan Cup and be placed firmly in the main event scene. But now I get that sinking feeling that his phenomenal talent is going to be pushed down the card. Am I wrong?
You're wrong.
I don't know how to feel exactly because, I mean, Shingo is like a utility player. I mean, he's someone that can main event the card or he could be fine in any role that they possibly give him. If they did want to relegate him to like that upper mid card, you know, Suzuki, Ishii sort of role, I don't know what his ambitions are as a performer, but like, I'm not saying that he wouldn't excel in that role. But if they want to try and draw money with him and headline shows down the road, you know, Tokyo Domes, things like that, I could totally see them going that way with him too. So I think the book's still kind of open when it comes to that sort of thing. But this inspired me to think that they've got bigger plans for him more so than it made me think that they don't, personally.
I think, again, it goes back to you could build Shingo going after the title at Sakura Genesis for 2 weeks.
Right.
Or you can build him going after the title for 4 or 5 months in the Dome.
That's a great point.
That actually is a great point because this was actually something I said last week when we did our preview show. I said, if he wins this, he's not beating Ibushi. But in losing, I've got the feeling that maybe he could be like a title challenger down the road and actually win it.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel that way before. So, yeah, that's a great point, Mavs.
Yeah, I think this tournament did an excellent job of elevating him to that next level. I feel like if they were going to keep him in the mid-card, they would have given him the Ishii treatment. He would have been out first or second round. They wouldn't have made a big deal of the story around him, but he was in the main events. There was a story of him having to fight from underneath and rally, be this fiery babyface, fighting back, fighting through the injuries, fighting through the Dick Togos and all this adversity that was thrown against him, and to rise up and then to fall so short there at the end. And like you mentioned, Josh, Gato loves booking tragedies that eventually that hero eventually does get that goal in the end after going through that pain and heartbreak.
What's the last time when I said that they were booking a major tragedy? It was Okada beating Naito in the Dome, and I said they're gonna pay this off down the road. And boy, did they ever.
Yeah.
They're gonna pay this off. I really feel like this is a setup for a comeback. Big time.
And you know what? And just to go back a couple questions ago with B. Priestley, there could be a payoff in that as well. We don't. Again, Gato could be. He is playing the 4D chess, as they like to say.
Yeah.
Because he could be. There's going to be payoffs.
Yeah, and she left the ring being escorted out by Kota Ibushi and some of the baby faces. There is some speculation that what if this is all a quote swerve? Yeah. She ends up coming out with Ibushi down the road and turns on him, and it was all a big ruse, which I'm not a fan of that, to be honest with you. I think that's a little too Western for my taste, but it is
We've seen it several times in the past.
Gato likes ECW. He likes CWA. He likes that Memphis shit. That this is right in his wheelhouse. I mean, I don't know.
If it comes out of a box, it gets over. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Boxo gimmicks.
You know what? I mean, let's just look at it. Ospreay's, ref bump, down goes Red Shoes, and Ospreay's in a spot where he's able to take advantage, and B. Priestley comes out and hits her finish on Will. And all of a sudden, I mean, to the crowd. I mean, not through a I mean,
she jumps over the barricade and fucks him up.
Yeah, jumps over the barricade. Miss Elizabeth style at Mania 7, and instead of the beatdown on Sherry, Will gets the beatdown on that one.
Hits him with the Queen Suplex.
One thing I didn't touch on that I loved was that moment when Will hit that 450 onto the table on the outside. And then he's like, throw me in.
Yeah.
She had to throw him in. It was great.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Rambone_Slampig asked us, what is next for Shingo? Is he destined for a Goto Ishii role as an upper mid-card gatekeeper and star maker, or is it too soon to determine that? And I think we kind of answered that.
Yeah, we've touched on that.
Final question. Dom Homie 101 said, is it time for New Japan to push Shingo into the main event scene after his performance in the New Japan Cup? And I think we all can answer with a resounding yes. In the right time, though, I think is the caveat.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we're not looking, the main event scene. Not yet. 6 months from now. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, Jeremy, I think we wanted to talk about, very briefly, the top 5 matches of the tournament. You drew up a preliminary list. I kind of looked over them as we were going through the rundown. I completely agree with you on this list here.
Perfect. Yeah, because we didn't talk about this before we recorded. So top 5 matches that we have here. Coming in number 5, Shingo versus Goto. I mean, just say these guys always have great matches together. It's a hard-hitting affair. Former, Goto's Miss New Japan Cup. Shingo getting a big win over him was great. Coming in number 4, we have Finlay versus Ospreay. We talked about that match earlier in the show, just how great that was, and Finlay's selling. And I think some people I've seen, I feel like are underrating this match just because it is David Finlay. I went 4.5 on it, and I thought it was a really great matchup. Number 3, we have Shingo versus Okada. This was the bracket buster for a lot of people. Rematch from the G1 Climax last year. Shingo finding a way to, escape the money clip and defeat Okada. Awesome main event. Number 2, 1 and 2 that were so close. It was so hard to assign which one was going to be 1 or 2. But number 2 went with Will Ospreay versus Zack Sabre Jr. Again, Will and Zack do not miss. These guys always have incredible matches with each other, and this was more of the same here. And then number 1, the finals of the tournament, Shingo versus Will Ospreay. Similar to Will and Zack, Will and Shingo always have bangers as well. And we talked about the match. It was a phenomenal matchup, and overall, just a really great tournament.
Yeah, I concur with your list. I'm a little disappointed that there's no ZSJ Gabe Kidd on here, but other than that, I pretty much think that this is an astute list.
What do you think, Mavs?
Yeah, I think I'm not usually a guy to do the top 5s, the top 10s. The Zack Sabre Jr. I'd like to see ZSJ on there as well, but you pretty much nailed it. You captured the spirit of the thing.
So I guess the big question here is the tournament MVP. It really comes down to Shingo and Will Ospreay, the top 2 finalists. They were in the most matches. They were in the highest acclaim matches. And really, I guess we have to ask each and every one of us, looking in your heart, looking into the deep abyss that is your fandom for New Japan, who was the MVP in this tournament? Was it Will Ospreay or was it Shingo Takagi? Because I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw David Finlay.
Oh.
Really, when you look for you know what you're going to get out of Shingo. You knew what you were going to get out of Will. But the guy that really got the most out of the New Japan Cup was David Finlay. I think it elevated his stock so much. And I know, and maybe he's not the MVP, but maybe he's the top scorer on that if you were to look at it in a different way, because that is a guy who was able to he grabbed the brass ring, pal. But that's and I agree that the Shingo and Will in the finals. Shingo had the hell of a road to get there. Will was victorious, so he wins the thing. But David Finlay really is the guy, and especially had a great match at the end with at the end of it with Ospreay, and you thought in your heart of hearts he might do this. He might do this even the whole way through.
You know what? I still think that Dave Finlay versus Yoshihashi is by far the most underrated match of the tournament. I thought that match was great. Most people thought it was 3-star affair. They are fucking wrong. But I believe Dave Finlay came back to Japan after all this time off, after the, quarantine and everything. And Gato looked at him and he said, "Look at him. He's huge. He's huge. Vascular. He's vascular."
Taco was stepping out for a night on the town. Gary, give it to him. Give it to him.
His hair is wet. He's grabbing the brass ring.
Anytime we do break out that old Vince McMahon WBF commentary, Jesus Christ.
Oh, man. But for me, I'm at the point after having the discussion. I think I'm safely going with Shingo personally. I think it's a close. It's a toss up.
It's a 1A 1B like you mentioned.
It is.
I'm going Shingo too.
But Shingo's Brett and Will is Sean, and that means that Shingo's better.
As a Sean guy,
fuck Shawn Michaels.
Oh man, as a Sean guy, I can't ride with that. Oh man.
Oh man, so that's gonna be our MVP talk. Do we want to talk about the winner of our tournament real quick before we move on?
Yeah, so thank you everybody for entering in our bracket challenge. Thank you for Chris Sampson for setting it up on sportprowrestling.com, making it super easy to enter and to keep track of this year. Normally I'm getting brackets emailed to me and I'm by hand counting up points and who's ahead and all this stuff. So shout out to Chris Sampson. But speaking of Chris Sampson,
we got the most ballerist DM from Chris that I have ever received in the entire history of our show. He hits us up and he says, "In light of the occurrences with the New Japan bracketology, I will be foregoing any first place prizes that I have won." Meaning that Chris Sampson won every single award in every single bracketology because he was the most accurate predictor out of all the awards, but he also was the guy that set up all the awards.
Right.
So he basically had to tell us boys, I won, but I'll be passing on my awards to others.
Wait a minute. He was the guy that set everything up, and if he has a perfect bracket, I'm calling shenanigans on the gimmick immediately.
He missed 3 or 4 matches.
No. He missed
shenanigans on Chris Sampson. We need an inquiry.
Chris Sampson missed 2, and I call shenanigans because do you remember when Russo used to be on those WCW panels and be like, "I think Goldberg's gonna win this match," and he booked it, and then he would predict what he booked. That's basically what Chris Sampson has done here. And then he was like, "Oh, you know what? I need to throw 2 losses out there just to kind of throw him off the scent."
just to make it look like, I didn't get it perfect like that. I mean, come on. But I didn't fix the back end of this thing up.
This man literally hit us up and he's like, "I'm not going to take any of the awards. I'll just take the glory."
No, but you know what? That said, Chris Sampson, good job on you for putting out everything together and making this accessible for not just this podcast, not just Keepin It Strong Style, but all the podcasts that were able to utilize them, man.
Yeah,
you're the go-to.
It was great, but so
before you announce the winner, I just want to say I was number 8 in our own list. This is the best I have ever done. I don't ever do good in the New Japan Cup. I usually do okay in the other awards, and I usually get the winners pretty close or accurate, but I never win the New Japan Cup. I got both participants in the final. I went, what was it, 22-8? Something like that. Yeah. 23-8. Man, that's fucking good. I had Will Ospreay beating Shingo in the finals. I feel fucking proud right now.
Yeah, my bracket was not so great.
It was not as good as mine.
I was not in the top 10 this year.
But we have a winner.
Yes, we do. So
actually, we got 3 winners, right?
Yeah, so the winner of the contest is his username was MMAIPOM. Shoot name is Scott. He hit me up earlier today. So Scott, he's taking the first place prize, a $50 Wrestling Tees gift card. And in the default second place will be username Covio, and default third place Kyle Johnson. So I'll be hitting you guys up to get your information, to get your prizes out to you this week. Thank you guys so much for entering the contest, and be on the lookout for more contests in the future.
But what about Josh? What about the young boy?
Josh, you get to...
I get to pay and contribute to half of the cost of these prizes.
You get to continue hosting this show. So real quick, we got to talk about Sakura Genesis. The card was announced. There was a press conference the following day after the finals of New Japan Cup, and they announced the card here. So the big main event is going to be for the double, or actually it's going to be for
the world title.
The world IWGP World Heavyweight title, Kota Ibushi versus Will Ospreay. Going to have the IWGP Junior Tag Titles on the line. El Desperado and Yoshinobu Kanemaru defending against Roppongi 3K, Sho and Yo. We will have Tanahashi and Kojima against Jay White and Bad Luck Fale. We'll have LIJ, Naito, Sonata, and Shingo taking on the United Empire, the Great Okan, Jeff Cobb, and a mystery partner. We had a lot of questions on this one. Question from the amazing MC. Who do you think the new member of the United Empire will be? Question from Muzza. Who do you guys think is the fourth member of the United Empire? His top two picks are Chris Jericho or Brody King, but also see the possibilities of Toa Hanare, Carl Frederick, Shota Umino, and Ren Narita. And Rambo saying, Plague asks, is Toa Hanare the mystery member of United Empire? If not, what the hell does he need to do to get involved in the program? And then BJ Baker, if the Empire's new member is Hanare, do you think it'll be the new coat of paint he needs? Personally, I think the Empire needs a junior. So who are you guys thinking is going to be the mystery man here?
Well, Toa Hanare, he got on a plane and went back to New Zealand, right?
Inoki.
You know what? And this is like, okay, so you never would have expect Great Okan to come back and side with Will when that happened. And then when they announced another mystery member, to the blue was Jeff Cobb. So the two times before, and then B showing up, you kind of had an expectation of that, but it really was kind of strange to see a Stardom New Japan crossover kind of develop.
Right.
Expect the unexpected with whoever fills in that slot X.
There are so many options of people it could be. I mean, I'm trying to think outside the box. I'm thinking like Chris Hero, you know? I'm thinking like Michael Oku. I'm thinking like ACH or Leo Rush. You know what I mean? It could be Robbie Eagles. I mean, who knows? Or it could be, what's our boy from Perth, the guy from Australia?
Oh, Slex, the business?
Not him. The less good wrestler who's been in New Japan. He used to be part of...
Oh, Mikey Nichols?
Mad Mikey Nichols, motherfucker. Yeah. It could be him. I don't know who it is. Honestly, it's probably Hanare.
Yeah, I would say the smart money is on Toa Hanare, just due with the frustrations we've seen him having, and the timely picture of him, flying back to New Zealand when this announcement was made. So I think that's the smart money, but I mean, it could be a numerous amount of people, like you mentioned. I mean, Shota Umino is a guy that's been on excursion and hasn't been able to do much due to COVID. Could they bring him back and be a part of the Empire? It's a possibility. Personally, I would like to see Umino kind of be a babyface and maybe kind of take up that top, domestic talent role. But I mean, they could go with that. I mean, there's so many guys. There's people from Strong that they could bring in.
They could go the problematic route and be like, it could be TJP. Just lean into the shit. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Or Austin Aries, just really lean into it.
Yeah, there's so many people it could be. If it is Hanare, I do think it could be the new coat of paint he does need. Like we mentioned before, he's just kind of been treading water, just kind of stuck at where he's at. I think a heel turn would be a very fresh thing for him, and being teamed up with Okan and Cobb and Ospreay, I think could help elevate his stock and just be that new start he needs to kind of get him to the next level.
Yeah, and it makes him, as you say, new coat of paint makes him a bruiser, and give him that mean streak that he needs right now. That would be the thing. But again, I'll stand by it. Expect the unexpected with the Empire, because if you expected Jeff Cobb to be there the first time, I don't think anyone saw that coming.
Right.
Maybe one of these LA Dojo boys, possibly.
Right. You got Alex Coughlin, you got Clark Connors, Carl Fredericks, who's been graduated and has his alpha wolf gimmick. They could go over those guys. Gabriel Kidd. I mean, we've seen him kind of heating things up with Zack Sabre. Maybe that there's room for him in the Empire. We'll see.
I hope it's Muto.
The rest of this card, we have Okada, Yano, Goto, Ishii, Yoshihashi taking on Evil, Kenta, Yujiro, Taiji, and Dick Togo. And the card will open up with Taichi, Zack Sabre Jr., and Doki against G.O.D. and Jado. We had a question from Rambone Slam Pig. Are you let down with the lack of single matches on Sakura Genesis card? Is this a result of saving big matches for stadium shows later this spring?
Yes and yes.
I'm all right with, again, you've got your standard tag affair with New Japan, and when you do have to build to Yokohama Stadium and Tokyo Dome, again, I guess you do save them for those big draws.
I'll give him the pass for the reasons that you laid out. But the other reason I'll give him a pass is because we're getting a week off of New Japan Pro Wrestling, which doesn't always sound like a good thing, but with the overload of shows that we had during the New Japan Cup, I am welcoming this week. I got some shit to do. I got things I need to do to further my own life. So I'm fine with it. It's okay. And plus, the main event's going to be a banger, so even though some people probably don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, of course, would I have loved to see more singles matches on this card, definitely. But like Mavs mentioned, we got the stadium show, we got the dome. There's also Wrestling Dontaku before the stadium shows in the dome. There's a lot of big shows coming up that you gotta save matches for. And so, unfortunately, that means a show like Sakura Genesis in the past, which might have had some more single matches, is only going to have the one big single match and then the junior tag title match. And we can see in this card they are building the stuff. Tanahashi and Jay White are faced off. They're building that Never title match. We'll probably see that on one of these shows down the line. They're still building the Never Six Man with Bullet Club and Chaos. We're seeing the Empire and LIJ mix it up. Something could come out of that.
Kojima and Fale, I mean, they're paired against each other.
So there's a lot of stuff that's going to come off of Sakura Genesis that's going to build to some of these bigger shows. So real quick, we got to talk about New Japan Strong.
Did you watch the show?
Yes, I did watch it.
Oh, wow. On my recommendation.
I mean, I was planning on watching it. I had time to watch it.
It was a good show, actually.
Yeah, we had Jeff Cobb defeating Alex Coughlin in the opener. Then we had 2 New Japan Cup USA qualifying matches. We had our man, Ren Narita, locking in that Narita special, defeating Mysterioso Jr. to get a tap-out win there. And then in the main event, in a Hoss match, never-style brawl here, Brody King hitting a nasty-looking Gonzo bomb on Bateman to get the win here and advance on to the tournament.
Yeah, the company... go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, the company is all in on Brody King, but I'm all in on Bateman. This man can fucking cut promos. Like, he is incredible on the mic, and his character work, like, I know he doesn't fit the traditional mold of, like, New Japan, but I've seen Tyler Bateman for years, and I've never felt this way about him the way I have on New Japan Strong. Like, he doesn't come across this way to me on ROH as he does on New Japan Strong. Like, he's really taken a chance on the opportunity to sort of branch out and make something of himself here, and he's just incredible. And I really enjoyed this whole episode, all these singles matches, but this match in particular. And they got to do something with Bateman going forward. After this tournament's over.
When I saw the post match with Ren Narita. It was a few weeks back, and
oh yeah,
the guy came in and after his first win, laid in, said you'd call that a chop, and laid a chop into him. It just made me sit up and say, they're gonna make Ren Narita the wrestler.
Yes,
yeah,
and I am here for it. I want to see that happen. This just, again, black tights, black boots, just a badass.
There is a match recommendation I'm going to throw out to you right now. It's something that we have espoused, me and Jeremy, for years on this show. Ren Narita against Yagi.
Yes, the Young Lions Cup.
From the Young Lions Cup in what was that, 2017?
2017.
At the end of the year, 2017. One of the greatest, I mean, we're talking one of the greatest unheralded matches that has ever happened. I wouldn't put my reputation on it if it wasn't as great as it is. Narita and Yagi, 15 minutes, goes to a draw. It is the best Young Lions match I have ever seen to date. Incredible. And from that moment, I was like, Narita is Shibata reincarnated. This man is the fucking man.
Yeah, Narita is awesome. I'm loving his excursion. I'm glad he's getting all these big wins over these New Japan Strong guys, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to do in the New Japan Cup USA. And, you know, Strong has been really great these last couple of weeks, and it's because it has a purpose right now where we're building this New Japan Cup USA. The guys are fighting for stakes. There's a prize at the end. We're getting some promos. We're getting some angles. It's everything we said they need to do with New Japan Strong. They've really been doing here these last couple of weeks.
And they've had the right guys, but not only that, it doesn't feel the way it did last year. Last year, the U.S. title and the situation with Mox and AEW was so in flux. We were like, well, what's going to happen when the winner wins this thing? Are they even going to get a title shot? You know, and we're a year separated from that, and it's like, well, they probably will. So, you know, it's going to be very exciting once the New Japan Cup actually, quote unquote, officially starts. So this is the last round before we get to that, you know, to that phase, and I'm very excited for it.
Yeah. And I get a lot of credit to the crew out in California for really creating a great product with New Japan Strong. It's one of the, you know, there's a lot of good things that came out of the pandemic, and for New Japan, which made the lemonade out of the lemons of these guys being stuck in the States, they were able to create a weekly program out of the dojo and out of California that is really, really, really good and captures the essence of New Japan quite well.
Yeah, definitely. And so coming up next week, we have this week, David Finlay and Carl Fredericks versus Tom Lawler and Danny Limelight. Then we'll have two more qualifying matches. I believe these are the last two qualifying matches. We'll have Blake Christian versus Chris Dickinson, and then we'll have Clark Connors versus TJP. That'll be an interesting main event there. Connors and TJP team up together in the Super Junior Tag League, and we've seen them team up here on Strong. So kind of got the former partners there. Clark Connors, who they've said is graduated from the LA Dojo, and so it'll be interesting to see if he can kind of pull an upset win here over TJP, or is it just going to be kind of the normal Young Lion loses and TJP advances on? So that'll be interesting to see.
I think it all depends on whether or not TJP is the secret member of the United Empire.
I guess we'll see there. And then only other news item that we have.
We know what's going to happen with Blake Christian.
Right, because, Mr. PC.
Mr. NXT.
Yeah.
Fuck him up, Dickinson. Fuck him up.
The only other news item that I have for us that we didn't already cover throughout the show, Monday Free Match, Kazuchika Okada versus Zack Sabre Jr. From the New Japan Cup 2018.
No, it's from. It's not from the Cup.
Yeah, it's from.
It's from Sakura Genesis.
Yeah, the title match that Zack got from winning the Cup.
Yeah.
Now we just have some other questions here before we get to recommended match of the week. First from EMJ Does PR. He has two very important questions for Mavs. His first question is KOD or GOD?
So, do you now KOD? Did anyone smarten you up as to what KOD is?
No, nobody's smarting us up.
Okay, so KOD is a pizza place up here called King of Donair.
Okay.
Now the Donair is like a shawarma. It's got your onion, the special meat with tomato and a real sauce and a pita. And people go absolutely ape shit for them around here. King of Donair is a staple on the East Coast, and Donair sauce on pizza is a very, very it's kind of the cultural dish for us up here in Nova Scotia, along with Donair sauce goes on everything. So that's King of Donair, KOD over GOD. God, there, no one's realer than Gorilla. Maybe, you know what? I'm not a Donaire guy. I'm a poutine guy. So, but
Ooh, hot takes.
because I played some football with one of the now current owners. He was a son, now current owner, Nick Nahas. I'll say KOD. I'll take KOD over King of Donaire over Gorilla's of Destiny.
Get ready till the Twitterverse gets a hold of this shit.
You know what? And this is the one thing I will say is they do have to do a change. There was Alberto Patron was in town with Paige, and he was working in Indy here, and they went to KOD, and so they've got his photo up on the wall at KOD, and I'm gonna have to say, hey guys, you might want to take that one down.
Yeah, they need to get rid of that.
that one's kind of got to go. It's him and Paige enjoying a Donaire, and it's like there's a lot of water under that bridge right now, boy. You might want to change that.
Next question for you from MJ Does PR. He said the Tokyo Dome or the Liquor Dome? Question.
So again, another Halifax.
Yeah, so smarten us up to what the Liquor Dome is.
I take the Liquor Dome, and I love the Tokyo Dome, but I don't even know what the Liquor Dome is, but it's the Liquor Dome, so I'm going with the Liquor Dome.
So the Liquor Dome is a massive bar complex in Halifax, and I'm going to tell you something, guys. Halifax is a party town. It is an underrated gem of a party town, and the Liquor Dome is 5 to 6 bars in one complex. It is a wonderful night out. There was many nights when I was doing Halifax Rainmen or Halifax Hurricanes basketball. I became very good friends with the head of the cheerleading/dance team, and as the designated driver on the Club Soda and Limes, because I'm allergic to alcohol, we were always out there until 4 a.m, and there was lots and lots of partying that went on at the Liquor Dome. And then at the end of the night, we would head towards this place called Pizza Corner, where King of Donaire is. But I would get poutine, and we'd all get in the van, and I'd drive everyone home. That is the best way I could describe the Liquor Dome. There's more bars per capita in Halifax than anywhere else in the world.
That sounds incredible.
And we say Dome is home. Dome is home. But the Liquor Dome pales in comparison to how much I want to be in front of the Tokyo Dome. And yeah, it's really I've not touched the Tokyo Dome yet. And it's kind of like a Stanley Cup thing where you don't touch it unless you want to. I've had my photos taken on it. The last night I was in Japan, I was coming back off the subway, and I was walking towards the Tokyo Dome Hotel, and it was just me in the dome. I had it as the background of my photo for a while, and I was looking in the doors, just looking in, just imagining and dreaming and thinking what it will be like to go in there. So that is what's been driving my my psychosis and my ambition through all this COVID of just thinking it's still that light at the end of the tunnel of getting back to Tokyo Dome. So I love the Liquor Dome, but Tokyo Dome beats it. And guys, if you ever come up here to Halifax, the Liquor Dome is we're ready for you.
Well,
we're ready for you.
I want to do both, but you've sold me. I'd rather have a strong 0 in front of the Tokyo Dome than be at the Liquor Dome. So it's settled.
Yeah, I definitely want to do both. I would love to have a visit in Canada. I don't say why do we have to do either or. Let's do both.
Jeremy, you got to be there because I go too hard. I'm going to need you to be there at the Liquor Dome to rein me in.
Well, Mavs is going to be the DD.
Again, I'm on Team Club Soda Lime. I'm missing the ethanol. We are getting everyone into the back of the. Well, I'm probably one of the only guys in the world that looked and said, all right, I gotta grow up. I gotta lose the minivan, because we had nights where we piled 14 to 15 people in the back of this thing to get everyone home at the end of the night from the Dome or the Toothy Moose or the Palace. Like, no, not the Palace, but just downtown Halifax. And there would be again. It
sounds like Ybor.
Yeah.
the crazy thing, of course, like the middle of a blizzard, and I'll turn a corner, and out of the blue, I'll see my roommate Will was standing on the corner, just begging and looking for a cab. So I get to roll down the window and fire open the side door, and he hops in, and we get him out of a blizzard at 4 a.m. That's some of the true Halifax stories of what goes on. So boys, go as hard as you want. We're all getting home at 5 a.m.
That's awesome. Next question here from good friend of the show, Zach Porter.
Congratulations on your marriage, Zach.
Yeah, shout out to Zach. Is getting married a couple of weekends ago. He has some non-New Japan questions for you, Mavs. He says, which four does Mavs have making it to the playoffs, and which teams is coming out of the Scotia North Division this season? After seeing your tweet about Bill being the one to instigate a line brawl, who would you liken to him in the NHL? Manager comes to mind for me.
Okay, so yeah, with the Scotia North right now, I mean, you've got Toronto and Edmonton, really the crop there, and you know, Winnipeg's made their moves. I got to cover Nikolai Ehlers in junior, so I think you're going to see Winnipeg there, and then maybe Montreal they get in there and ride Carey Price. We'll see what happens. I mean, Montreal is just a team in flux. They need to get rid of Marc Bergevin as their general manager. It's just that simple. But they've got a great head coach in Dom Ducharme right now, a guy that we covered for a while, that he gets the most out of his players. So we could see what happens. I think you're going to see Toronto, Edmonton, Winnipeg, and Montreal get to the playoffs. And, you know, Toronto in the playoffs, guys – I don't know how much y'all follow hockey. Toronto being a Toronto fan in the Stanley Cup playoffs is like being a masochist because you're just inviting pain at that point.
It's like hoping Ishii wins the IWGP title.
Exactly. You just nailed it right on the head. And no matter how much it looks like it's going to happen, they always will find a way to blow it. Oh my God, the Maple Leafs. So I think you might see Edmonton sneak out of there. But I will say, as in a hockey sense, the Senators are not a good team right now. They're going to be fire in 3 years if they keep everyone around in that organization. They're going to be absolute fire in Ottawa. When I put out the tweet that Will Ospreay would be the one to most likely instigate a line brawl, that I stand by that. And the comparison to him and Brad Marchand, that's a tough one for me because Brad, who was referred to, just to give you guys a little insight into it, when the Bruins won the Stanley Cup and they went to the White House, President Obama referred to Brad Marchand as the little ball of hate. So he has been referred to by a president as that nickname. And he's matured a lot over the last couple of years. But again, 2 years ago, he lit the guy in the face in the playoffs. So that caused a whole another set of things. So I think Will Ospreay and Brad Marchand, yeah, that's a very, very, very good comparison.
And his other question, he says, if any, what's your must-go-to spots every time in Tokyo? Any underrated districts you like to visit?
For example, mine are Jimboko and Nakano.
Jimbocho with the books,
yeah,
and Nakano Broadway with just all the big stuff. Of course, look, you're going to hear about the Shibuyas, the Shinjukus, Akihabara, all those, Harajuku, all those places. Man, just going into random shrines and seeing the peace and tranquility steps away from the madness that is Tokyo is really inspiring. I love going to onsens. It took a little bit to get over the weird nudity-ness of it, but once I did, I loved it. Jimbocho is a really nice place. You're right, with all the books there. That's really cool. It's just down the street from Tokyo Dome. There's a spot, and again, if I was to move to Tokyo, I would be looking to find a spot in Hakusan Station, which is 2 stops up from Tsudobashi, from the Dome. It's a great little neighborhood in Bunkyo. That's where I'd be trying to find an apartment and start my life over there. Yeah, there's so many, it's just Tokyo. If you just walk around, you go into Tokyo Station and you're down below, and the amount of sweet counters, there's no possible way you could try everything you want to, right? It's wild. It's absolutely wild. Tokyo is wonderful, but I will say when we talk about Tokyo, the place that blew my mind was Yokohama, which was 15, 20 minutes train away. And I've never been out to California, but it certainly felt like a Los Angeles, California feel in Yokohama compared to being in the hustle and bustle of Tokyo. But yeah, no, for me, it's just the drive to get back to Japan. I mean, it's not like I thought about it every day since COVID.
If you guys can't see the look on Mav's face, I mean, yeah, this is a man that is driven to get back to Japan.
Yes.
Yeah, it's wild, man.
And I want to go to Japan now too.
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
You know what? And look, that's as well for this what's going on. As I said, Kevin Kelly is the best in the business right now, and that is his chair. And I'm not taking his chair. I know that, but it's not happening. I want to learn from Kevin as much as I can. I want to work with Chris, want to work with Rocky, want to work with Gino. And when the opportunities open up, I want to, would like to be the fill-in. I'm backup point guard. But that said, I look at Stardom and I just see an opportunity there.
Yes, yeah.
Really hope that something can happen in the future with Stardom with Stardom Joshi Wrestling. I've been politicking, if you will, to find some ways to contact some people over there, and I've been trying to open some channels. But yeah, Stardom is where for myself, and I know and it's not a disrespect to New Japan, because there could be things opening up when this whole COVID thing happens, but to get an opportunity with Stardom as well would definitely be something that I'm really hoping can come to fruition as well. So again, just talking it out in the universe. I mean, it's just us, right? We're just here, right?
It's just us and the thousands of people that download us every week. If that were to hypothetically ever happen, we've got just the guy for you to talk to. Okay. Because this podcast network, we're not just about New Japan. We're not just about WWEs and stuff like that. We are the home of Dr. Joshi. And he might not be as well known as some of the other big names out there on the Twitterverse because he's not on Twitter. But James Boyd is the guy that you need to, if you end up working there and you need the inside scoop
on storylines, angles, feuds, rivalries.
We've got the guy to set you up with, and he'll get it all set up for you.
Yeah, I'm down to learn and I'm learning as much as I can as I go along with Stardom as well. And it's, but yeah, any help as well as, hey, we're boys. The end of the day, we're talking wrestling, guys. This is the best. I say this before I interview. Like, if I see a kid is nervous before I'm about to interview him in hockey, I'll always try to pop him with, okay, so just remember, we're not talking about the effect the Chinese economy has on Asian trade markets due to the pandemic. We're going to talk about hockey right now, so let's just have some fun. And usually at that point, I get a smile out of the kid. Well,
the funny thing is, James Boyd, host of One Nation Radio, he doesn't even like being called Dr. Joshi. This is the name that I've affectionately given to him for years now. But we've got about 20 minutes left. We got a couple more questions here to go through, so let's try to run through them as quickly as possible. Viking Payne asked us, La Sombra back in NJPW, yay or nay? And I'm going to go with a nay.
Oh.
Really?
Not a nay because I want it to be a nay, but I'm going to say nay based off of the current situation that we're in with COVID and with money and everything like that. I think he's showing up in AEW personally.
Yeah, he did copyright La Sombra for U.S. use, so AEW appearance could be imminent.
Yeah, it would. I mean, again, and in the 6 months now, probably not. But moving forward with a forbidden door that is opening.
So you guys are both yays?
Yeah.
Nice. He also asked, with Dave Finlay's victory over Jay White and his outstanding work in the New Japan Cup and Okan being the breakout star of the United Empire, is it safe to say that both men will be in the G1 this year? And who would you take out from last year? My picks would be Yujiro and Minoru Suzuki. Yujiro's run last year was great. Suzuki's going to be 53 by G1 time. I say send Suzuki to America to do strong and let the man rest and preserve his body longer. U.S. champ Suzuki, question mark?
Yeah, we kind of touched on this earlier, but it's really a tough call here. I mean, honestly, Yujiro is the one guy I can say for certain that I would take out. When I look at the rest of the lineup from last year, like, I know people that they harp on Suzuki's age, but he's still performing at a high level. I have a hard time taking him out.
Yeah, did he not have some of the best matches in the tournament last year?
Yeah. Ishii,
Kota Ibushi, like, come on.
Yeah, Yoshihashi's another name people might want to throw out, but he had a great tournament and has been doing great as well. It's gonna be it's so hard to take anybody else out. Yujiro's the only one that comes to my mind, like, for sure get him out of there, but everybody else I think has a right to be in there.
Yeah, Yujiro again was fortunate of the circumstances that he got a nice run in the G1. He won a match. So it's, again, as I said, I'm a Yujiro Takahashi mark. But we are right. The caliber of wrestler in the G1, when things open up and when we have opportunities to bring a few more guys into the country, you're going to see it kind of become a logjam. But Josh might be right. It may be time to go with 24 and open things up a little more. I know they were talking about maybe 12 before, so 12 per pool. I mean, at one time the thing was a single elimination tournament. It's always evolving.
Right.
My whole thinking with, hypothetically, if they did 4 blocks, right? You do the A and B block winners against each other at the end, the C and D block winners, and then the winners of those two can go on. You preserve a lot of singles matches throughout the year. You preserve the bodies of a lot of these wrestlers because they work a less strenuous schedule. And you get to do more shows long-term, thus making more money. So I feel like that's the way to go long-term. But if, hypothetically, we stayed with the 2 blocks of 10, I can throw a name out there right now, aside from Yujiro, that needs to get the fuck out of the G1 right now.
Evil?
Nope, because that's not realistic, even though I would totally get behind that. Toru Yano needs to get the fuck out of the G1.
Yes.
Now, I understand all the arguments for why he's there, the role he fills. I've made those arguments on the air. But at this point, if they were like next year being like, you know what, Yano's just, he's a comedy guy, he's going to be over here, I would be totally fine with it if perhaps we got a John Moxley or a La Sombra or whoever it might be instead of Yano, who's never going to win it.
Right, making a room for Okan and Finlay.
Exactly. I'd be totally fine with that.
It's a fair point. I just think that you get a lot out of Yano in that G1. You do get a lot out of Yano in that G1, and it is a different style of match, the crazy like a Fox match, and it's also
You're not going to get complaints out of me that Yano's in the G1. I'm fine with it. Hypothetically, though, with the limited roster, I would be fine if we diverged from it? Because like you said, it's always changing. He's been a staple for so long. Maybe it's time we go a different way. I don't know.
Yeah, it's when someone gets hit 3 times with a turnbuckle pad as opposed to taking a bump on the apron, a massive throw to the floor, and then maybe something off the top rope. Maybe they might be thinking, Yano match, I wouldn't mind a Yano match.
You know, when Josh eventually becomes fully trained and, you know, gets down to G1 in sometime in the future, maybe he'll want a Yano match instead.
Bro, I'm gonna be the Yano. What the fuck are you talking about? Last question from Viking Pain. He said, non-NJPW related question, but thoughts on WWE banning the thigh slap, and is that something that is actually taught in wrestling class, or is it just a trade secret that's passed down from one wrestler to another?
I think banning the thigh slap is dumb. It's just one of those things you really don't notice it unless you're looking for it. It makes a great sound effect. It makes super kicks and claymore kicks and sick kicks and, you know, all injuries. It just makes them sound so much better and look great. And I think it's just one of those instinct. Josh, you can tell us from your wrestling training, but I think it's instinct. You know, when I did backyard wrestling, I instantly slapped my thigh when I was doing kicks because I wanted to sound off. And so I don't know if, you know, if Matt's, you know, teaching you guys thigh slaps or what the role is there.
Kayfabe, brother, kayfabe.
I can tell you, whenever I super kick anyone at the office, I slap the thigh.
Yes.
My foot's not going much higher than my hip, but it's all right. They understand the purpose of what's going on here.
When I was doing Muay Thai, I would throw a leg kick and then I would slap the thigh, and people were like, man, really laying in that shit. BJ Baker asked us, he said, what NJPW wrestler that hasn't competed in Bloodsport would you like to see in that setting? Also, the world still wants to know if Jeremy Donovan has seen the actual movie Bloodsport 1988 yet.
Yes, I did see Bloodsport, and we did talk about that on the show. I forget when it was, but yes, I have watched the movie Bloodsport.
I cannot confirm this. I didn't watch Jeremy actually see the movie, so this is his word. He's an honorable man, so I believe he's telling the truth, but I can't say I know 100%. I'm like 98%.
Kumite.
There you go. He's watched again, this is a senior football story. We had a crazy defensive end that came in, sacked a quarterback, and he ripped the towel off of his belt and then wrapped it around his leg like he was Bloodsport. One of the funniest things I ever saw was busted up on the sidelines. Bloodsport, you know, if you're gonna take him out of the G1, let's put Toro Yano in Bloodsport, all right?
Hey, you know what?
Shooter Yano.
Dude,
you know what?
That's like not even a fake thing though, but he's actually had MMA experience. He's actually had real fights. He's like an incredible amateur wrestler. He probably would fucking rule in Bloodsport.
That's the thing. It would be such a great departure from the Yano, to see him come back out as the badass amateur wrestler background and just kicks ass.
I want to go.
Or he holds up his chair and tries to get you to scan your QR code. That option too.
I'm going to go with David Finlay. I know he has an amateur wrestling background. You know, he busts out that Granby role. I think he's a good guy. If he leans more on the amateur background, he could probably fit in there.
I've got 2 names that I would throw out there. I mean, there's a lot I could. Oh, man. I'm looking through the personnel list, and there's like 3 guys that I would want to see. I'm going to throw them all out there because it's my show, and I can do whatever the fuck I want to do. ZSJ, Kota Ibushi,
yeah,
and Tomohiro Ishii. I want all of them in Bloodsport. I don't give a fuck.
That would be incredible.
It would just be something to make sure that Kota
once he gets there, he gets to enact his K1 or K2 roots, and I mean, we've seen him. He's actually done shoot wrestling in DDT. He actually had actual shoot matches and things of that nature. Plus, the match he had with Suzuki during the G1 this year was like basically a UWFI match, anyways, pretty much. So, I would say he's probably number one on the list for me.
Yeah, I can't believe I didn't think about Ibushi. Yeah, that would be. I just picture him and Taichi kicking each other for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Next question here from Dom 101. He says, so with Andrade getting his walking papers from WWE, how likely is it to see La Sombra in a New Japan ring in the near future? How would he fit into the company, and how will the company use him if he does come to New Japan? What would be some ideal opponents for La Sombra and NJPW?
Go ahead.
I think he fit right back into Los Ingobernables.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Just have him in. I mean, they lost to Evil, and Hiromu's on the shelf. It's a perfect fit.
Yeah, bring him back into LIJ. I mean, you could have him, there's no more IC title. I would say he can try and reclaim that. He can get that never title mix. Why not Tanahashi versus Sombra?
Bro, at this point, he's a former WWE star. You know how they like to roll the red carpet.
He's getting a world title match.
Yeah, he's getting an IWGP world title match. And not only that, I see him as usurping authority from his, what's the word in Spanish? Like
hermano?
His pareja? Because Naito's his pareja.
Mm-hmm.
And he needs to just roll up in there and be like, the fuck are you doing? This is my group. This is not your group. And he needs to just kick Naito out of that shit and just take it over. And then, you think everyone's going to join Naito, but then, we've seen through the years how many times Naito's been jumped and everybody in LIJ did not come to help him. There's no true allegiance in this group. This man, La Sombra's going to come back. Sonata's going to back him. Shingo's going to back him. Naito's high school friend. Bushi's going to back him. And then Hiromu's going to come out with his, arm in a sling, and he's going to back La Sombra, and, Naito's going to be a man on his own. That's going to be his new, storyline.
He can finally go back to being a Stardust Genius.
Yeah, or whatever he wants to do.
But yeah, I mean, there's a list of ideal opponents for him. I know he's going to be in LJ, but him versus Shingo would be great. Okada, Tanahashi, Jay White, Ospreay, Ibushi.
Ishii. For me, Ishii versus whoever XYZ wrestlers, that's always the dream match for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then his last question, he says he's got one fight question for the young boy this week. Thoughts on the rumors of Mike Tyson turning down a $25 million offer to fight Evander Holyfield?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's actually news to me. I had heard through the rumor mill that they were lining up a charity/exhibition fight between Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield. But if Mike Tyson was turning it down, I don't know. That's kind of surprising to me. But guys, I mean, I don't know. Evander Holyfield's one of my top 2 or 3 favorite fighters of all time, and I'm telling you right now, I don't care. I don't know if you guys gone and seen the social media stuff with Evander. 6 months ago, Evander probably wouldn't have been able to take Mike, but he's gotten himself into phenomenal shape. And if I was if I was Mike, I wouldn't fight Evander either because he is the real fucking deal, and he would beat Mike Tyson's ass right now. That Mike Tyson that fought Roy Jones, Evander Holyfield would piece him up. Then they could pay him $25 million, they could pay him $50 million, $100 million. It doesn't matter. He's gonna get beat up again for the 3rd time in a row. There's a reason he bit this man's ear in the second fight because it's a terrible style fight for Mike Tyson, and it always will be.
Who's Nate Robinson going to fight on the undercard?
I don't know.
Man.
Probably nobody.
No, Nate learned his lesson. Yeah, I don't know. That Tyson to turn down $25 million to fight Holyfield. As you said, Holyfield ate his lunch back in 97. I don't see Mike Tyson at 55 being able to compete with Holyfield again. Smart turn down.
3 hours ago, TMZ posted, Mike Tyson says fight with Evander Holyfield is officially on for May 29th. So maybe it's happening.
Oh.
Never mind. Wow.
Maybe you got a bigger deal, maybe.
Maybe. Here's the thing. It's going to be an exhibition. So, I don't know if you guys saw that, like, Roy Jones fight. It was, like, great and it was inspiring, but, like, it kind of seemed like it was a gentleman's agreement, basically.
It'll work.
The highlight was Nate Robinson and Snoop Dogg.
So yesterday they said the deal fell apart. A couple hours ago, SB Nation and TMZ are saying that it is official, so we'll see.
Nice. Well,
Evander Holyfield's going to beat his ass.
Last thing to close here with recommended match of the week. So last week, Josh recommended to us to watch Koji Kanemoto versus Marufuji. This match was just absolutely incredible. I don't know why more people are not talk about this match.
Told you.
High pace, hard hitting. These guys are striking the crap out of each other. Brutal leg kicks, big strikes, big slaps. Kanemoto is killing Marufuji with leg kicks throughout the match. Great spots like Marufuji hitting a brainbuster on the apron. Great strike exchanges. Marufuji, great submissions. You got the trio woe spot. Kanemoto gets Marufuji in the trio woe, and they're just slapping each other back and forth in the trio woe. Kanemoto hitting a super belly to belly, a super cradle driver off the top, dropping Marufuji right on his head. Was incredible. And then,
how hot was Corkin Hall?
Oh, Corkin was so hot. They were firmly behind Kanemoto. You had a few people that were trying to cheer Marufuji, but they were getting drowned out by the Kanemoto fans. And Kanemoto eventually fell to Marufuji, fell that Marufuji driver, and Marufuji won the IWGP title on that night.
Yeah, I love this match. I might like it better than any of the Kenta Marufuji matches, and that is super high praise. Kanemoto's a badass, man. He's like the junior Kojima.
Yeah. Well, Mavs, we are going to throw it to you to pick the recommended match of the week this week.
Recommended match of the week, and we were just speaking about them. Let's go on May 31st, 2013 from Arena, Mexico. Nakamura versus La Sombra, where La Sombra takes the IC title.
Oh, I love that match.
That's awesome. I haven't seen that one.
The 2 out of 3 falls match?
I watched the match because in our Nakamura series that we did during the pandemic, when stuff was shut down, we talked about the match where, Casino Road match, I think it was, where Nakamura got the belt back. So I haven't seen this one. So
I've watched this match. It's great. Big recommend. So, yeah, that's a good recommend.
So watch that. Now, one thing before we go, gentlemen, and I got this sent to me by a friend of mine, and I want you to think this is going to make us all feel real old. What happened 20 years ago today?
WWE bought WCW.
That's the one, boys. My God. That's almost old enough to drink where you guys are at, and it's already developed a bit of a problem where I'm at. Jesus Christ, man.
Oh, man.
Oh,
well,
smokes.
Mavs, thanks so much for joining us this week. Get your plugs in. Tell our listeners where they can find you online or listen to you doing broadcast.
Yeah, sure. So, of course, I'm on Twitter at Mavs Gillis for most of my wrestling, for all my wrestling stuff. My hockey and everything up here in Atlanta, Canada is, you can see it on Twitter at Eastlink Mavs. And I'm also doing some writing for Monthly Pro Wrest. So you can find that on Twitter as well. And New Japan, NJPWWorld.com. I'm a searchable term on that website, which still blows my mind.
That is awesome, man.
Yeah,
we are too, but only on the extension.
Yeah, you use that extension, you get that nice slider for Keeping It Strong Style. But we are on New Japan World in that Jushin Thunder Liger New York documentary thing.
You mean you are?
No, you're there too?
Oh, I am?
Yeah. Me, you, Karen, Rich. We're all right there front and center next to Liger during that MSG press conference thing.
Huh.
That's beautiful. My debut, by the first time you see me on njpwworld.com, I am standing behind Liger after the El Desperado versus Hiromu Takahashi from Kizuna Road in 2018, I believe.
Yeah, I remember that match.
You see as it's going to break, I run down and I'm standing up. At Liger's point, I'm wearing a Suzuki Gun shirt, and I'm just I'm just being an idiot in the background of the camera. But little did I know, 2.5 hours before, I had a meeting that changed my life forever.
Nice.
That's
the way
awesome.
It went there.
Well, thanks again so much for joining us, Mavs. Next week, we'll be back to preview and give our official predictions for Secure Genesis. So if you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate. Click on that donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media. On Twitter, the show is at KI Strong Style. Our network is at Social Suplex. You can follow me at Jeremy L. Donovan. On Facebook, we are facebook.com/Social Suplex. You can join us in the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Wrestling Squared Circle. On Instagram, we're at Social Suplex. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy. Josh is Keeping It Strong Style. You can email me, Jeremy, at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Discord server, Social Suplex. Link for that is in the description for the show. And check out all the other shows here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We have One Nation Radio, which is currently on hiatus right now with Rich Latta and James Boyd. They will be back in a couple of weeks. We have the Ricky and Clive Wrestling Show from Scotland. We have the Grave Consequences Podcast with Caleb and Maserati. 8-Bit Suplex with Josh number 2 and Sandy. All Things Elite with Floyd and Austin. And the Great Match Generator with Danny. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Samsa winning his predictions was an inside job.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.
Spring into Lowe's and plant the seeds of possibility. With premium mulch for just $3.68 a bag and Stay Green 1 cubic foot garden soil just $4.28 a bag, you'll grow possibilities right from the ground, like skipping the grocery store because your yard grew the whole salad. And it grew you tulips, too. Oh, yard, you shouldn't have. Visit your local Lowe's or shop online at Lowe's.com. Lowe's, home to any budget, home to any possibility. While supplies last, mulch offer in-store only. Selection and offer availability varies by location. Offers valid through 3/10, U.S. only. Excludes Hawaii.